Sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want you to know. Secrets start in your heart to slow. But if you don't wanna tell me now, I guess I'll never know. Losing almost all my energy. It's getting hard to talk to you, and I'm the only one who speaks. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know. Secrets start in your heart to slow. But if you don't wanna tell me now, I guess I'll never know.
Okay, you guys, good morning. Well, yes, is it in the eastern side? Is it like 12:35, I suppose, on there? So good afternoon. Or if you're from the UK, good evening. And Charmaine will be joining us in a minute as well. We're pretty much ditching Adam today. Anyways, you guys, welcome to the live. We're gonna go and wait. Like I said, I'm waiting for Charmaine to come too, but we're gonna go over some more of those Fortson things on Reddit, posts on Reddit and stuff like that. But we're gonna go back a little bit further, and I just thought it'd be interesting. He's obviously a very bright man in a lot of ways. You guys could tell yesterday some very interesting stuff. 1 second here. Charmaine's messaging me. The end. Yeah. Charmaine, just when you come on the live, I'll explain it to you better because you're not doing that right or whatever. True Crime Snoopy. Hey, True Crime Snoopy, missing. How are you? Mustang's in the house. Hi, Jen C. How are you? Hi, it's a criming shame. How are you? Tired, actually. I probably should have just stayed in bed when my husband woke up this morning. But I was like, no, I think I'm going to do a live this morning. Why not? On there. And then we're going to be doing one tonight. But tonight will be like with Alexa, and that will be on the Rex Huerman case if you guys are following that one, of course, as well. That's of course, the Long Island SK. Hi, Duckin. Oh my God, that's 2 days in a row you saved me from suffering through cringy side stream while I work. Bless you. Yeah, no problem. On there. So I thought we would look, though, before we get started into the, of course, Reddit posts there, that we would go into a few things from the Ron Logan affidavit. Hi, Tattoo You. How are you doing there? Let's see here. Hold on a second. Let me just tell Charmaine. Charmaine, you're not listening to what I'm telling you. That's a you problem. That's a user end problem on there. I had to take a Delphi break for a bit, but here I am. Yeah, I was wondering about you, Jen C. There when I seen you, I was like, I haven't seen you in a while, and I get it. We all have to do that. She'll be on in about 5 minutes. But yeah, honestly, sometimes you just have to do that, right? Even I've had to do that too. Like prior to recently, in a sense, I think more like in September, October area, wasn't doing as many lives and definitely wasn't making many videos. Just because, each day I woke up and I have to feel it, And if I'm just not feeling it, I can't be like some of those people. And I shouldn't say that, but I can't be like some of those people that just feel like they have to, race on to earn their monthly income from YouTube and keep putting out content. I just can't work that way. That's what I'm saying. Money is never the primary factor in anything I do. It's I have to feel it, and if I'm not feeling it, I feel like I'm being not true to myself by putting out content. If I'm doing it for that reason, and that hence why I was going through that spurt too, where I was just like, I don't know, I just taking a little bit more of a break and stuff like that, because you just get tired of it. Like, like 3 years of doing content, you know, and yeah, after the Suzanne Morphew case for sure, and then I came over to Delphi, but it was because was taking a little bit of time off. I thought, oh, I'm just going to relax, chill, go back and look at Delphi, go back over to the Suzanne case, but then Barry was arrested, and I felt like, okay, I can take a break now, type of thing. And then I just stuck with Delphi after that. And yeah, but everyone needs to do that, or else just get. I don't. Let me put it this way: content and putting out content, different story. But I never let trolls or drama or all that stuff ever get in my way, because that stuff's just pointless stuff. You know, it's the content stuff, because that's really the purpose. But sometimes you just go through those moods where you just, just like I said, want to take it a little easier. Your brain gets mushed. And I think everyone knows with Delphi that it's just been like anyone following Delphi, that this has to be one of the most brain hurting cases, that you guys are probably following. Yeah, there's the Koberger case, but that doesn't even come close or touch, the Summer Wells and the Vallow case might somewhat come close in a sense, but Delphi is really, it's just a world of brain hurt, and that's for sure. Uh, Thanks, Gen C. Yeah. So enough about that. Thank you guys again for coming into the live this morning. And I do want to say, because Adam sent it to me this morning, um, Michelle After Dark, thank you very much. She played a little clip from what we were talking about, in the clip that she had put into one of her videos this morning, I believe it was. And Michelle After Dark, I know her from, or I remember her from this Nicola Bully case, because she's out of the UK there. But she also covers kind of like, um, Grizzly True Crime, right? She might live over in the Netherlands, but they cover, stories around the world as well. And that's what Michelle After Dark does. And she follows Delphi. But she'd put in the clip about, like that time, from 12 to 1:30, hence why, they changed it back in 2022. And the other one that she did, I remember, at least that I know of, was the one when we had the Defense Diaries on, and Travis on that night. And so anyways, again, Amy from Case by Case had asked me if she could use the Mike Hiddle parts of that video. And it's just like, yeah, sure. Like, I don't honestly care. I just hope that people will do things with good intentions when they take a clip, like meaning, not like when they're trying to bully other channels and twist a piece that you've said into a whole different narrative and stuff like that. That stuff, is just a joke when people do that. So, but other than that, when people use content or, type of idea. So that was nice that, Michelle had added a piece of that clip from last night. That was a good live last night. Definitely some information that you go, oh, okay. Oh, there she is. Hey, beautiful.
Good morning. Can you
Morning.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did
Cool.
so um so just so I'm clear on that link that I gave you for that pull push,
Yeah.
you put in search for, and then you put in comments, right? So
Oh, posts. I've got it on posts. So
yeah, you had
comments.
it on
Okay.
posts, and I could see that because I did the same thing, and that's why I was like, Adam, what are you? But I didn't, because he didn't say put in comments until later. Then I was like, oh, like after we got off the live, then I was like, oh, okay, if I brought up comments, and then so I'm basically at what did I say? November
November
22nd of
29th,
2022 or something like that. Um,
29th. Yeah.
we'll
Well,
change.
you told me November 29th,
Yeah, that date
2022.
then. If that's what I said on
Okay.
there. Hi, Jeff. I caught that Michelle After Dark video this morning and heard your name mentioned. So awesome. I was like, I know something. I want to say this because it only benefits a channel when they're not selfish about their content. Like, there's a difference between writing the whole thing, even though still, honestly, if somebody wanted to play a whole freaking video of mine, it is good for the channel that they get noticed from other platforms out there. That's why, when people want to copyright strike you and stuff like that, go ahead, keep to where you are then. But it's kind of like, to me, it's like that benefit because the more you're seen, the more subs in that you get, the more impact you can make, as your channel grows and stuff like that. But that's my way of thinking. Doesn't mean it's everyone's. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Jen C says, hi, Charmaine. I have to rewatch. I fell asleep as it was four. Oh, yeah, I know. It was I did 2 4-hour lives yesterday. Um, do. Anyways, thank you, Jonas. And if you guys could put your fingers, of course, on that like button. And you guys, for all you guys that are members, and if you're not members, Charmaine has done a lot of gifting with memberships. It allowed me to make another emoji. I like making those little emojis. But anyways, if you guys are a member, if you're not, it's $1.99 a month. But there's a little gnome and a little Christmas mug with candy cane and a Christmas tree in it that I just put into the thing. So for any of the new members in that, you guys can do that. And then Jen C, there you go. She just did a super sticker. And so Jen, when you hear the music go off, that's you. If you understand the Tom Webster thing, that's why you'll hear the Tommy thing if you haven't heard it yet. So thank you so much for doing that, Jen C, for the super sticker. Appreciate that on there. But yeah, so Charmaine, like I said, has gifted a lot of memberships to people. So enjoy being able to use those emoticons, you guys. Again, paying it forward. Thank you, Charmaine. Even though you're embarrassing me now, because pretty much you keep doing that each and every live, and I'm starting to feel really bad here on there.
Why?
I know I would say the same thing as you. If I couldn't afford to do it, I won't do it. And if I can afford to do it, I will do it. I just
And
start
not just
feeling.
that, I'm doing it so that, well, number one, so you can make your husband's car payment, but also to kind of get people on to watch the Canadian true crime stuff
And
on
that too.
Saturdays.
Yeah. So don't forget, you guys, this Saturday, we'll be covering Robert Williams,
Russell.
Canadian. Pardon? Oh,
Russell.
Russell. Why do I keep saying Robert? I don't know
Because it's
why.
easy. It's
I think it's
easy.
because of all these Roberts lately, like
Yeah.
Robert Kyle, Robert, Mark Roberts. I keep saying Robert, but anyways, yes, Russell Williams. And then, so we'll be doing that. And so Saturday is Canadian true crime, because we're obviously both Canadian here. Adam, he's not so much Canadian. No. But that the music still hasn't gone off for Gen C's. I was kind of waiting for that to go off here. I'm a writer, not a YouTube creator. My writing is being used word for word by some famous people. I find it flattering. Absolutely. I mean, it's a compliment, honestly. You know. I'm not gonna lie. There was one that Groz took a clipping me of, and
Tommy, can you hear me? Can I help to cheer you? Ooh, Tommy.
Gen C Super Chat, $9.99. Thank you.
That's Tom. So whenever somebody does do a super chat, that music plays for Tom to come and join us on a live. Again, for anyone that doesn't know Tom, his last day, I believe, is December 1st on his job. He let the public know this, by the way. I think he said he was going to come on our show and do a comedy act or something like that. Pretty sure
That would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be amazing? I got to ask him. He's probably going to deny it, but anyways. So Charmaine, close enough. Charmaine is the one that was thinking of that because I was, been trying to work towards for my husband for a car payment because they're like $440 every 2 weeks, eh? And so, and
That's
Charmaine,
crazy.
yeah,
Holy.
I was gonna say, I've, to be honest with you, Charmaine, even though, so basically with my YouTube money, I got to pay the cell phone bill and the car insurance, which is about 300 and something dollars, and the car payment is like 400 and whatever. So I'm pretty much almost there because YouTube converts for me into Canadian, right? So that helps that I'm Canadian that way. Thank you, YouTube, for doing something awesome that way.
Mhm.
But anyways, so then Charmaine came up with the idea for Tom Webster because, to help him out. So the idea is to get him on the live, and type of thing, and maybe have a donation night for Tom or whatever, even though he's messaged me going, nope, I'll come on a live on maybe in December, but no donation. I know, but he said, like, I was always like that too. It's just like you don't mind
Mhm.
helping people, but it's almost like embarrassing when people help you back and stuff like that. Isn't that strange? You know,
Well, he also says that he's going to be okay. You know, he's getting severance. It's nothing
let's.
bad. So,
Oh, I was wondering why that was going on.
$4.99
Oh, I
for
love
you.
that song.
Ooh,
I know.
I love that song. I think I want to hear it again.
Thanks, Jeff. It was funny because I heard it go off and I looked down and I'm like, I don't see anything. But then it popped
mhm.
up during that song. It was playing on there. Jeff, he just likes it. He's like, Sonny, here's some Popeye money on there. I deep dive into the mental health system in Indiana prisons after the inmate letter came out, talking about Baston guy. That one.
What kind of deep dive, like for yourself, or does Jen have a channel, or did I miss something? Do I
I
need to
don't
go
think so.
watch?
Mm, I think she's just saying I did a deep dive. She went down that rabbit hole.
Oh,
Mental health system in Indiana prisons after the inmate letter came out. I think. Thank you again, Jeff. Yeah. She just said, yep. I think she was answering me. Were you answering me? I don't know.
yep. What part though? Like just for yourself?
Yeah, I think it
Do you
was just
know?
yourself.
Oh,
Was just say yes again, Jen, if it was just for yourself that you kind of went down that hole. I don't believe Jen has a channel.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
I was watching this. I don't want to miss anything. I'm all over the place. I live in the rabbit hole.
There she goes. I did it to better understand. I work in mental health. I figured as much. I needed
Okay.
to better understand. Absolutely. We all
Yes.
have our little things. And as a collective, as a whole, it's always nice when everyone has their little fortes, to do with Delphi and the different thoughts and, the stuff. Because, like, I'm not no mental health expert. Sure. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm kind of like, you know, good at understanding people and stuff like that, but I don't have no Google, freaking plaque there behind me saying I got any expertise in it or I'm not a lawyer. Unlike Adam, who's almost a lawyer. I mean, I think you're almost there too. Okay. Anyways, thank you so much, you guys. Thank you so much to Jeff and Jen C for those super chats, and of course, Charmaine for always the gifts, the memberships for those people that now can enjoy just to even if it's just to play with those emoticons. We're gonna have to do a membership live soon. To be honest with you, I really think it's time to go on Asps on Airline and take a trip around Google Earth again and go check out some new and exciting places to go visit. I think it's almost time to do that, eh? Oh, there's
Yeah.
Alexa.
Hey
Alexa girl.
Alexa, we should
Yeah.
go to Greece. We should go to Greece. I'd love
Oh,
to go
we've
to
been to
Greece.
Greece. Don't worry.
Have we really?
Yeah. Like
Hmm.
on Google. Yeah. Absolutely we have. Yeah. Alexa, are you still up for just to double check? Alexa, are you still up for our Rex Hewer midnight tonight? It's just that she's had such a bad earache, you know?
That's what I'm
Um,
going through right now. It's the worst. It's the worst.
you got an earache too?
It's the flu, I think, but it's in my throat and my
But
my ears and my sinuses.
oh yeah, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you at least take Benylin?
No, yesterday I had a coworker basically stuff Sudafed down my throat, and then
Yes,
last night it
Sudafed.
was Neocitrin and some
Mm.
NyQuil. I was out for 15 hours, so
Well,
hence why
Benelin.
I'm not on camera.
Yeah, no, but Benelin's really good. But Sudafed is a good one for a head cold. But Benelin is a good one for an all-in-one, for cough, everything.
Hmm.
Um, I swear by it ever since I took it before. Would never like for me to get sick typically. I'm getting sick lately though, because between my husband and brother-in-law, they can't decide if they want to be healthy or sick lately. And obviously at some point in a one-bedroom apartment, you're gonna be
Oh,
getting their germs and shit
yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. But anyway, yeah.
'Tis the
Okay.
season. Yeah.
Yeah, 'tis the season to be bitchy. Fa la 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 la. Just kidding. Okay,
Fair enough.
so
Fair enough.
okay, so you guys, let's take a quick look at a couple of the things to do with the Ron Logan. Now, this is the unredacted version of it. Okay, so Frank had given me this a long time ago, actually, the unredacted version of the Ron Logan one. But anyway, so like up top in number one, it says any and all evidence pertaining to the murder, including clothing, forensic evidence, blood, seen and unseen, even though they spelled that wrong, hair, bodily fluids, seen and unseen, fibers, which they found, weapons, including guns and cutting instruments, electronic devices to produce cellular signals detected by law enforcement area, as well as animal hair samples, right? So, I mean, just looking at that alone, from the crime scene that fiber, animal hair sample, because obviously they would have found that at the crime scene to try to compare it to, something that possibly Ron Logan had. And then the rest of it, of course, was all about computers and equipment, storage devices, monitor, basically every technology thing that's there is basically what they're, wanting graphic interchange format equipment, visual depictions. Yeah. So I wanted to share that part with you. Let me go to, because we're not reading the whole darn thing. It's not that it's that long, to be honest with you. That's just tablets, phones, IP, whatever. Just Nicole Robinson affirms, special agent, blah, 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 blah. Let's see, is there anything there? Longitude, latitude. Okay, let's see. Approximately 5:30 p.m., the last successful ping, which we know, of the cellular phone at AT&T, the victim LG and H were located deceased at 12:17 for that one. Nothing. Okay. Now, so this is just briefly going over a few things here. Okay, so a suspect has been developed as a white male wearing a blue jacket, heavy physical build, wearing a cap and blue jeans. The development of this suspect was made by a 43-second video. I believe that video was 43 seconds. The total of that video was 43 seconds,
Yeah.
especially due to the comment that Tobe Lesenby made, because he's like, yeah, it's not even 2 minutes or whatever like that. Um, it could be just tad longer, but from what I'm seeing, it seems like that whole video was like 43. It wasn't like that long, but enough to, you know, that you wouldn't want to hear what's on it. According to Down the Hill, when they're listening to it. Um, Let me see video. No person has come forward. So, yeah, near the end of the video, the suspect speaks to the victim, saying down the hill. It sounds as though he is directing the victims down the trail. No person has come forward and identified himself, kind of what we were talking about yesterday. So, even when they were calling for the person that was parked at CPS, Richard Allen, like never came forward after that point, like didn't come and say, hey, remember, I talked to you, nothing, right? And let's see. Mm, that's just your typical stuff with the phone and the crime scene. But is this okay? So were found dead in the woods caused by a sharp weapon, because remember that part was unredacted or redacted or whatever, on the property owned by Ron Logan. Now, here we go again. A large amount of blood was lost by the victims at the crime scene. Because of the nature of the victim's wounds, it is nearly certain that the perpetrator of the crime would have gotten blood on his person/clothing. The location of the crime scene is approximately 1,400 feet from Ron Logan's residence. Now, I want to make sure I'm not forgetting that one part that I am looking for. There must be something that comes after. I had on my iPad, I had it circled, but okay. Large farm. I think is it this one? Okay, let's see here. Okay. Oh yeah, here it is. It was also discovered, okay, this would have been redacted. It was also discovered that the panties and sock of one of the victims was missing from the crime scene while the rest of their clothing was recovered. It also appeared the girls' bodies were moved and staged, not bodies were moved and staged. Based upon my training and experience, it is common for a perpetrator of this type of the crime to take a souvenir or in some fashion memorialize the crime scene, whether by photos or electronic or digital methods that are downloaded onto computers. So we have heard talk, and I know that we heard it on criminality when Skip was talking, and I was talking to somebody else about the tripod marks. So that really does make me wonder. Sorry, I should come back over here. Sorry. It does really make me wonder. I want to get Sunny a gift card from Walmart. I like Walmart. Not gonna lie. Thing is, I could never stay on budget in Walmart ever. If my life depended on it, it's too hard.
So sorry, Sunny, I can't remember if you said or not, but somebody asked if or Shelley, she just said, so there was a lot of blood at the crime scene, and I can't remember exactly what it said, but it did allude to that, right?
Oh, it literally said that.
That there
That
was a lot of blood there.
yeah, like let me go back to that in a sec. Okay, one second. I think it was right here where we just read that. Oops. Sharp weapon known. A large amount of blood was lost by the victims at the crime scene. And then it says, because of the nature of the victim's wounds, it is nearly certain that the perpetrator of the crime would have gotten blood on his person's clothing.
You were right, Alexa.
Mm.
That's correct. There wasn't blood where the girls were posed, and I think that's how they determined that they were moved and staged. I believe I'm going off of memory because I don't have this handy, and the way it came over in Messenger Sunday, the pages aren't in order, so I didn't bother.
Oh, the pages?
Yeah.
They should be when you're hitting them because they were sent in order.
No, I know, but the way it just comes through, I think it came the last one first, but then I'm
No.
trying to find the one that you're on, and I'm like,
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because you'll see two of them. One's like longer than the second one's shorter, and then what the heck? Hold on. 1 second. That's my doctor. 1 sec.
yeah. So how I understand it in my memory is that there was, and then later on, I think we heard that a large amount of blood was found near that quote unquote F tree. And because that memo didn't mention Abby's blood being over by the F tree, I think everybody assumes that there wasn't a lot of blood there. And that's not how I understood it. I just understood it. Obviously, the defense was cherry picking what to put in there, but I think it's safe to say that both girls' blood was found at the scene. if that makes sense. And yeah, just to clarify, we do have Walmart in Canada,
Mm,
and we also have Canadian Tire stores, totally
yeah.
different.
We have an Amazon. We have an Amazon link as well. I love Amazon. Amazon's like the lazy man. I love Amazon shopping. I do. I like when we go to Walmart. We usually go once a month because I. It's kind of like that trip that you dread. It's never as bad as it seems, but the husband he doesn't. Like I'm not big on shopping, to be honest with you. Like the food part of it, but but yeah, like Amazon's like the lazy way of doing. I kind those are my two main things, Amazon and Walmart myself. I'm not sure. Sorry, my doctor. Sorry, guys. It's just that I have an appointment on Wednesday for my ultrasound or whatever. So I just needed to answer that one because it's a pain when you have to call them back. Then it takes forever. Um, so okay. So I'm not sure what we were talking about last because I was talking about a tripod and you guys were talking about the blood um on there.
Well, just I don't know. I guess I was just babbling a little bit how the defense's memorandum mentioned a large amount of Libby's blood over by the F tree, but they didn't make any mention of Abby's blood. And from that, people assume that Abby's blood wasn't found at the scene. So I was just
And
kind
I
of saying I mean, I don't think that that's even reasonable to take that away from that just because of how the defense they left
well,
out certain things to make things seem a certain way.
they were focusing on Libby at that point about the F
Yeah.
tree. They didn't include nothing about Abby. Remember, they're there to minimize everything,
Yeah.
first of all. That all that true stuff will come out with whatever.
Hmm.
But there was a lot of blood. But again, they were referring to the F tree, so that's why more they were just talking about Libby's blood. It's not that Abby's blood's not there as well. But again, they're there simply to put out why Richard Allen is innocent. That's all that memorandum is about. It's not about anything else. Okay, so just try to remember that it's a very one-sided story of what their perception is and what they took away from those crime scene photos and stuff like that. So they're not there to tell the whole story like that. That's not what their job is to do. That will all come out in trial for sure. Um, so we don't know where the tripod. I just had heard it. I don't know. Like obviously, it got to be somewhere near the girls, type of thing. So what I was going to say was, I always said that there's something behind his back, and to be honest with you, um, on the top of it, it always reminded me of a tripod. So I'm not actually shocked because I couldn't at first when I first saw it and I took a picture, I thought it was like a bow and arrow type of thing because of the way that it looked. But as I took more pictures, there was this thing that I kept thinking was like the top of a tripod. And I wouldn't doubt that that actually is the tripod that was on his back now that we have hindsight to go back to, because like I said, there was something there, and I kept thinking it was that you put the camera on top. It had that look, and I wasn't sure if it was a camera already on there or not. Maybe, I don't know. All I know is that it will probably come to fruition that that is probably the tripod that's actually on his back. That would make sense to me, to go with all that whole video stuff or whatever. Um, and I still can't forget that there's definitely the headphones on the BG as well. That one is just a clear given. That one you can go to the not the side that you see on the ISB page, but you can clearly go to the other side, which I've shown you. It is clearly round headphones. Like there's no mistaking that, right? There's a difference between, okay, here's the crime scene. Oh, looks that. I guess there is no freaking little kitty cat stuff down over there. But then again, we're not looking at the whole crime scene, but still, looking at the girls and the placement of these sticks and stuff, I'm like, well, I'm not seeing any freaking spray bottles or any of that stuff like it seemed to come across. And then it's making me wonder at that point, is that how bad it is when you pixelate something, that it starts making these images and stuff like that? So I'll be curious exactly what the full scope of that crime scene looks like, hopefully at some point, just for self. That's for self stuff, okay?
So it
Um,
did it say in that warrant anywhere that there was orange cleaner or something? Like, where did that come from? I
that
thought
came
it came from the warrant.
It came from no, that came from Robert Lindsay, and that whole Robert, like, I remember reading the Robert Lindsay blog, and it was all about, well, different things, to be honest with you, about some sort of bear, stuffed animal bear that was there, and this was based upon Devil's Hop Yard video. Okay, so again, so the video of the Devil's Hop Yard, it's like the helicopter's flying in a sense, and he's got this footage, and he's just starting to take pictures, but he's having to change the coloring and stuff like that. So I know that that is true, that that is the crime scene from the Devil's Hop Yard. Because all I have to do is go back to Libby's face, um, that looked like it was a knife in the throat, but it looks like perhaps that it was a stick instead, but it came off as the form because it was bright and shiny, right? Like, why would this tree be bright and shiny? But that's the way it came off in the pictures. So chances are it was just one of those sticks. Even though we had heard about the knife wounds and stuff like that to the throat area, but so I'll just be interested in seeing all the things that come to fruition. But I know that there's headphones on. And like Alexa said when we were talking last night, maybe it was just, you know what I mean? Just to be like the cool vibe thing, maybe music, relax him. Who knows? We don't really know a lot about Richard Allen. Should he be the, guy, of course, to know, hey, did he walk around with headphones normally and stuff like that? Um, yeah, but but I still believe that now is a tripod. Oh, let's see here. Yes, on the BG. Um, okay. Amazon wish link. Um, let's see. Hike. I will let me do that. I want everyone to know though that regardless if it's the donation links or following us on Twitter, Facebook, and anything like that, or following some other channels, all those links are always in the description of every video. Just so you guys know that, okay? So 1 second there. Da, 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 da. On there. Charmaine, is there anything you wanted to add before I went on for a second, or no?
No,
Nope.
no, I'm good. I'm all caught up. And
Okay. And I mean, don't feel like you have to. Here's the link, but don't feel like you have to do that, okay? I appreciate it, and I appreciate, when we started doing that, it was because so many people um kept saying, like, where's your donation link? Where's this? Where's that? And at first I'd be like when before, like, for monetization and that, and I'd be like, no, 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 it's fine. Don't send me nothing or whatever. But then I realized, came to realize that, like myself, sometimes people just want to help out. They just want to do something special because they like your channel, they like you, perhaps, appreciate the content. They know it's a lot of work and different reasons, right? That's where I kind of came more to terms with that stuff. It's hard, but but after a while, you're just like, yeah, I guess that's, like, I can't think for everybody else. If there's other people that truly want to do things, then, who am I to say no if they really want to, and stuff like that. It's just that was my way of thinking. I'd help, but I hated taking, but, so anyways, there it is. Thank you, Hike, if you do. And if you don't even, think twice about it. Me being pregnant, no. So truth of the matter is I have like what do you want to call them, like 3 cysts in my ovaries. So they're one is like 9 centimeters. Not that, okay, if you're a guy, just close your ears right now. And so they don't believe that they're cancerous, but they want to do another check on them, just to double check again, stuff like that, because cancer does run in our family on both sides of it. And so usually people die young, in the sense, in our family, because of cancer. So they just want to double check and see how everything's going and just check on it. That's the reason. But no, I'm not pregnant. No, 54. There's no chance of that. No. 2 seconds there. I just got to turn off my camera. You guys, just Charmaine, can you just look at what people are saying in chat? I just need to go fill up my water bottle. I'm just so hot and thirsty in here. Can you give me 1 second?
Yeah. I'm just going back and reading.
Well,
Heavy duty tripod is for cleaning game
yeah, no.
and smaller tripod. So yeah, I mean, for myself, I don't think that he was out there hunting or anything like that day. As for the headphones, I mean, it's totally possible. I know when I go for a walk, I always have something on, like I'm listening to something at all times, but usually earbuds. I can't remember back in 2017, but I mean, it's all very possible, but we're never going to know until trial, if it goes to trial. And I think that even if he makes a plea agreement, usually when they make a plea agreement, that comes along with a full confession. So, guys are interested in ovary talk. I keep mine in a bag. That's funny. Wasn't there supposed to be Orange Cleaner by Ron Logan Trash? I mean, I've heard so much about Orange Cleaner, but on both sides, like there was nothing there and it was just a rumor. But I couldn't remember where it came from. And I mean, there's no way to hide orange cleaner unless you have running water, right? If you have orange cleaner and you're putting it on something, it's going to leave at least a foamy residue. I don't know if you guys are aware of orange cleaner, but it's almost gritty too. So if it was there, they found it. And I'm pretty sure they would have put that in some kind of document somewhere.
Sweet dude. Yeah. The orange cleaner. I've had orange cleaner.
Yeah, we use it all the time at work. It's good for degreasing and stuff because it does have that little bit of grit to it to help scrub.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm willing to go always with the information. If that means that I finally had to, after stuff came out in the PCA and the memorandum and different things, certain things and whatever, I'm always willing, always, to go with the truth. Pride aside, because there's no pride, in that. I mean, sure, okay, there's a tad bit going, okay, so looks like that didn't happen either, But so I don't give a shit what other channels say or do or what they accept or don't accept. But I'm one for the truth. That's it. You just want the truth, and if you have to change that direction because now you have more information, absolutely. Because it's not about ego at all. It's just about understanding the truth of from the moment that Abby and Libby arrived to Richard Allen supposedly, and then what happened in between that time. I mean, God, there's a mountainous amount of stories and everything like that. But I always do believe that the simplest truth is kind of following the path upwards and not branching off too far. Now, Lori Vallow case, you could never apply that, okay? Because the Lori Vallow case was an absolute absurdity of zombies and freaking everything else and whatever. Now, that one you could take a wild ride and probably sit there and do some drugs on that one, to be honest, to understand that case. But
Alexa brings up a good point.
What'd she say?
We don't know if RA had a kill kit in the woods, and like whoever done this, if it was planned, even if he didn't have his victims, pre-selected or whatever, if it wasn't a stalking thing, then he could have very well had something, and that could be why they ended up where they ended up. I mean, we don't know that. Look at what Israel Keys did. He had kill kits buried all over, like basically North America, right? Like,
yeah.
He'd already decided that he was going to leave his kill kit so he'd be prepared if the opportunity ever came up, and that's how he was able to get away with as much as he did for as long as he did.
Oh, I pray one day, you guys, that we understand the story the story and why, like,
Mhm.
I mean, it's just one of those things when you spend all this time, in a sense, selfishly, you just, or even unselfishly, whatever, you just want to understand, just, like put this small amount of time frame in a sense, just how did it get so, twisted and absurd? Well, I guess kind of like Fortson keeps saying, we can blame one man, Dan Doolin, you know, and Tobe Lesenby, to be honest with you, for what has transpired to this date. It would have never have went that way had they had experience and they didn't mess up and put white men in different things. And I mean, that's true. That's true enough, right? I mean, honestly, um, it's definitely a wackadoodle ride, this case, sadly. Um, so it says during the processing of the crime scene, investigators located unknown fibers and unidentified hairs, which may later be used for comparison of the similar fibers and hairs. Um, and then this one just, we don't care about Logan, to me, at least we don't really, because he's kind of like a non-important person um, to all this. He's dead. Honestly, Logan's not the BG. So anything beyond that is just irrelevant to us now. Yes,
It
he
is, but
lied.
there's still like a lot of people, an unbelievable to me amount of people out there that think Ron Logan was bridge guy or at least involved in that. I
Absolutely.
mean, I can't wrap my head around how we think that. How do we get somebody that's like Richard Allen mixed up with Ron Logan, and how can we not think that on that grainy ass video we would still be able to see that white mustache? I mean, we would see it. You'll never convince me otherwise. We would see that.
Oh, I mean, there's no question it's not. To me, it's not Ron Logan. Like, it didn't take anyone too long to realize that. Just the height and Ron Logan's, face and yeah, like that white mustache on there. But I don't know if like all I know is that this channel does not care about Ron Logan anymore. Like he's somebody that he lied. I can understand for a while that people wanted to. But for this channel, Ron Logan really is just put to rest. To, like it's not a subject we care to really talk about anymore. And the focus is on BG and Richard Allen because, obviously
That's who's charged.
that's right. Well, and like regardless, there's stuff to sit there and show that Richard Allen was there based on the fact that he said he was, meaning, like I said, when you compile that with a bullet, compile that with a confession, compile that, like I said, just out of his own mouth and the video, Harv store, whatever, and all that stuff, like meaning there's just we don't know what all information that they still fully haven't disclosed, or if they've disclosed everything. Like, let me just put it this way. So for me, I'm pretty sure that Richard Allen, you guys got me saying Ron Logan now, is the dude. Yeah. Um, but do I think that a jury, based on what we have, if just going by the stuff that we have, okay, no jury to me could convict him, without reasonable doubt. I don't think that there would be enough there. But of course, if there's more and it comes to fruition that, so before Richard Allen was arrested, it was a non DNA case. But there's all these little slips that people keep putting out lately about a motorcycle cover with Abby and Libby's DNA and a partial male DNA. Then we seen in Fortson, which is the other thing that people were talking about, was about the motorcycle tracks beside the garage or beside the barn at the Weber house. And you notice that Fortson talked about that. So whether that's true or not is a whole different ball of wax. But that's kind of like those little rumor mills that are being put out now. But we don't know. We don't know what they grabbed. They grabbed something out of the back of the car. They grabbed a motorcycle cover. So they did, right? They grabbed a bunch of knives, a bunch of devices, of course, and stuff like that. So I just hope that there's a couple more, like DNA would be the ultimate, obviously, of Abby and Libby, and then his that would be the like perfect scenario. But as for me, I think that if it was just this, let's just say, which I doubt it, if it was just this, there would be too much reasonable doubt, and that's hence why the whole Odinism stuff on there.
Mhm.
RL, yeah, RL never fit. I heard something and didn't realize what it was until he heard the girls missing and didn't want to be blamed for anything. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Ron Logan just, he wanted. I mean, he just simply lied. You shouldn't have been driving and all that stuff. And look what frickin' Fouts did to him. And by the way, Fouts is the one that signed off on this warrant, because I forgot back in 2017. Because I just remember a conversation between Tierra and Fouts. And I remember Judge Fouts making a comment like, "Don't worry, Delphi's my case," and that dawned on me when I saw who signed this, was Fouts. Like Diner was there too, but Fouts was the judge, and he didn't have to step down until 2021, was it? On there.
Yeah.
Now, so let me just quickly, because I know we want to get back over to the other thing here. So I'm just trying to see if there was anything else in this PCA. Um, yeah, I don't think there's really much else, at least at the second anyway. And the analysts show that cell phone of Ron Logan's was 10:16 p.m. on February 13th. Indicates that Logan's phone was likely outside of his residence, type of thing. Because some people were saying that it was like right down near the crime scene. Anyways, I don't think that there's much here. I'd have to re-look at some of this, but I only got up to the point where I wanted to show you guys where it said like the panties and socks and the rest of that clothes were recovered, and that the bodies were moved and staged, and about the blood, of course, and knowing that there was a lot of blood. It's just that they were put in a different spot, right? Hence why in those crime scene photos, you only see a little bit. I mean, obviously on Libby, different story there, but in general, you're not seeing, you know, a bunch of stuff. So from what I'm seeing so far, because me and Alexa kept having this disagreement on this because of what I've said, because of what Doug Carter said, you know, all I ever pictured was a bunch of like weird ass shit at this crime scene that was like this really, really grotesque crime scene picture thing to look at. And Alexis kept saying, like, yeah, I don't think so. Like maybe what they're saying they think is, but I really don't think so. And I kept basing it on the fact of, what I felt I was seeing based on the video stuff, going, I don't know, like this, I think it's going to be whatever. Anyways, I could honestly tell you Alexa was right. From the pictures that we saw, Alexa was right. There was like, there's not this, in those particular pictures, okay, still there's not this freaking shrine of stuff that I see, let alone, there's these horrific. I hate to say that, right? Because it's not at this, because you're not trying to take away from the family, but you guys know that either you can go on freaking any documentary and see like, it all over the walls and like really, really gruesome. So all I know is that what I pictured and what Alexa was saying, Alexa was right on that one. And okay, so I'm just going to take this off now, and then we're going to go over to the pull push Reddit search. And again, if you guys haven't watched yesterday's live, there was definitely good information there where you could see that Fortson was getting his information, from Mitch Westerman, because it's stuff that he was talking about before the actual memorandum and that came out. So I don't know, Charmaine,
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let's just start. Let's see.
So you guys didn't read all of this last night? I was in
Oh
and out of
no, heck no.
consciousness, so
No, we started from frigging like July, but I wanted to kind of go back and because this guy's smart. Like he's got a brain on his head for, shoulders for sure.
mhm.
Quite oh, by the way, you guys, if you guys haven't hit that like button for us, would you guys mind doing that? That really would help us to get into that algorithm. And that's what means a lot so that, not only does it help the channel, but then other people can view it as well. But obviously we want to get into the algorithm because that's what gets more people to see the stuff. And especially yesterday's content. Thank you guys for the likes for those. Again, to put it back into the algorithm. It's just really hard when it's just 109 people watching or and then there's like 27 likes and stuff like that. So if you guys could do that, that would be great. But anyways, if you want to, let me just see, I'll make this bigger. Do you want to just start from this post here on November 29th? Do you want to start reading from there for a bit and then we'll take turns kind of thing? Just
The
because
first one at 14:40.
what time does that say? It's that big
Um,
long post. Do you see that on the 29th? It's at 1934. Just scroll down a little bit more from probably where you were, I think. Mm-hmm.
1934. I've got 1932 and 1945. Oh wait, okay.
No, it's there. It has to be.
Okay,
19.
at 2034. Yeah.
Well, it started in the 1845 one that you're seeing then, where it says a lot of people are missing. Do you want to start at that one?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe it's timestamped differently, maybe because of our time difference, but it's
Yes.
1945 on mine. Okay. I got
Yeah.
you. Okay. A lot of people are missing this because they aren't familiar with Indiana law. It's called felony murder because the murder happened because or as a direct result of the felony that preceded it. In this case, I think the prosecution is going to show that he ordered them down the hill, constituting kidnapping, and then they were murdered as a result. They don't have to show he did anything else if they show he kidnapped them prior to that murder. He's guilty of felony murder just because of that. Not sure if you were tracking that, but I just wanted to clarify my position. And I totally agree. That's exactly what I've been saying this whole time. Also, that is a tight window. This almost makes me think he had spotted them or knew ahead of time based on how he moved with such purpose, even before they had been dropped off, yet as if he had to get into position. The girls arrived at 1:49 and were told to go down the hill by 2:13. 24 minutes. The girls were there before the moment of their kidnapping. Rick was seen by witnesses at just after 1:26 p.m. walking from Freedom Bridge. He admitted to parking at the CPS building, so he is making good time and walking with a purpose. He gets to the bridge and is spotted by another witness on the first platform. She turns to head back and crosses the girls, heading to the bridge at some time in that 24-minute window. Allen himself admits to being on the platform around that time, then claims to step off of the bridge and sit on a bench. The girls then pass, noting the weirdo, and head across. Sorry. Girls then pass, noting the weirdo, and head across the bridge. He sees no other signs of life and makes his very definitive and decisive approach across the bridge to the girls. He claims to be in the area until 15:30, likely fearing cell data giving him away, but doesn't appear to account for that time because he's told the truth up until now and the rest is unmentionable. He has them in the woods during this time, does his thing, and heads up through the woods to the highway and down to the CPS building to leave being spotted on the way. The person who has witnessed him walking the highway is seen on camera at 3:57, and if you drop a pin at the murder site and the CPS building and switch to walk, then you will see it is roughly a 23-minute walk, but it doesn't count the portion through the woods, it seems. So 3:30 to 3:57 is 27 minutes. Seems real accurate for his walk. He knows he has to be home and cleaned up before the wife makes it home from work. The 2:14 to 3:30 is longer than I assumed. He was in the woods with the girls, but accounting for the travel to the other side of the river from up the hill, it makes sense. He then did his worst and completed whatever staging, posing he did with them before heading out. I don't know if they will convict him, but I am confident he is the guy. I see nothing that suggests others involved. Again, that is a tight window. This almost makes me think he had spotted them or knew ahead of time based on how he moved with such purpose even before they had been dropped off, yet as if he had to get into position. Something about that seems more planned than random on the victims, but it's possible the stars aligned for the perp. Fair enough. Yes, he planned to fulfill his fantasy that day. I'm torn on if the girls were just unlucky random victims of opportunity or if he had stalked them before arriving. That 24-minute window of them arriving and being ordered down the hill is tight. Also, it was only 47 minutes that he had arrived and purposefully made his way to his position according to witnesses. Crazy efficient work for an idiot that racked a weapon with a round in the chamber.
Now, I just want to stop for a second there, as Alexis says, or maybe someone from Baldwin's office was feeding the info. Now, Alexa has always said as well, kind of like what Fortson's saying here, that yes, he planned to fulfill his fantasy that day. So a lot of people believe that this was like some sort of, fantasy that finally came into play that day. Uh, if you guys feel it's the same way, it was some sort of twisted fantasy that he had, I just put a 1 in the chat. If not, put 2. And then we'll just let you carry on there.
Agreed, he may have gotten rid of his special gun had he seen it mentioned. Luckily, he must not have heard the rumblings of an ejected bullet like many of us did. I wonder if that was news to him or if he had noticed in the moment but was unable to locate it at the time. Edit. Removed mention of unsubstantiated stint of rehab or mental health facility. I will say that the sheriff's office has stated they were at his house prior for a domestic issue that resulted in him seeking medical attention, but there are no further details that I see. I already stated this, but I think he was unaware of the unspent round. I believe he pulled the slide back to chamber around, not knowing that a round was already in the chamber. See every idiot that has ever shot themselves by accident due to not taking hunter's ed. He didn't notice the round that was ejected due to the events unfolding and therefore didn't know to retrieve it. Just my hunch from watching people accidentally discharge weapons. I can't scroll up. Oh, there we go.
Good? Okay.
Yes, it's crazy on both fronts. It's insane they didn't follow up, and even more wild to think that he never would have been caught had he shut up. What do you mean, had he shut up? Or I guess if he didn't tip himself in, okay. I bet he thought that his cell phone or something would betray him, and he was stupidly trying to get in front of it. He brought them his own noose, and they ignored it. There. I agree with Sad Mom that I agree with Sad Mom there, but let's try to stretch here for an angle. Sorry, my throat is sore. 1, potentially the varying descriptions of the witnesses. They are close but not exact. 2, they didn't mean in the PCA but are referencing KK, which is Kagan Klein, and didn't want him to see it. And 3, the 24-minute window is tight, and I could see that make people believe that he was either tipped that. What? This doesn't make sense. The 24-minute window is tight, and I could see that make people believe he was either tipped that they would be there or was himself planning to meet them. I don't think there was anyone else involved, but those are angles that could hint at others. I agree with them, though. You can bet your ass the defense will use Ron Logan. I'd
Okay,
also say,
stop right for a second there. So at this point, Alexa, he's saying, I bet your ass that they're going to use Ron Logan. Because obviously that tells me that he didn't, like, at this point, he didn't have any information because of that said sentence. Would you agree? Because it says, I bet your ass the defense will use Ron Logan. No, they went with Odinism.
well, this was almost a solid year before,
Yeah.
right? Like they didn't even have, the defense didn't
Charmaine,
even have the discovery.
this is true. Charmaine, Shelley's saying, can you talk a little louder? Your voice goes up and down.
I'm sorry, my throat is killing me. So
Do you want, just let me know. Like I said, we'll just take turns. So just let me know when you're ready to say, Sunny, your turn. All right.
Okay. Can you imagine how mad the loonies are going to be when they have to face the fact that not only was it not some insane conspiracy involving family members, a former mayor, and all their other made-up ideas, but that also DC and the rest of those involved had what they needed from the jump and missed it big time. Their hero was part of flubbing this up, and all their wild theories are false. I'll give them about 1 day to start panic, flailing, and saying it's all a cover-up now, and whatever other nonsense they can come up with. I hope they have that car,
What,
if it is.
Charmaine, you
Yeah.
didn't finish off the one sentence where it says, you bet your ass the defense will use Ron Logan. Like, I stopped you there, but we didn't finish off that.
Okay, so you bet your ass the defense will use Ron Logan. I'd also say that they will likely want to know why a guy all bloody and muddy didn't trek the woods to his house and clean up before retrieving the car. Seems risky to walk a highway in that condition in the daylight. That's true. So how did he know this stuff? Is this, this was, never mind, this is PCA. I'm sorry, my brain is foggy.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we did the can you imagine? And then I hope they have that car. If it is a hatchback version, then that jives. I don't believe he admitted to being the guy in the video, even though he's made it next to impossible for it to be anyone else. He specifically said he didn't see the girls. I agree. I just think it's easier to prove in this case based on what they currently have, hoping they get more and up the charge. Interesting. Agreed, but somehow he decided to keep his precious gun and likely other things, something to reminisce with. Disgusting. Yep, I'm torn, going back and forth on whether he got lucky and was ready, or he had been hunting from afar, whether with help or not. It's definitely hard to ignore how well timed the process was. I thought the co-worker seemed credible, but you are right. Even they likely wouldn't know the extent of that being that is happened prior to meeting him. I'll edit that out. This is all correct, but you want me to wait?
Yeah, just 1 second here, because I have to thank Hike here. He just said he got the cat. Where did it go? Sorry, Hike. Side note: got you cat treats from Amazon link. Thank you so much, Hike. we like to spoil the kitties. That that's so sweet for you to think of that. Aw, that makes my heart melt. Thank you so much. Okay, sorry about that, Shereen, but had to stop and appreciate that comment.
I'm
For
not sure where I left off.
uh,
Um,
you said I thought
this
the
is
girl.
all correct.
Yeah, I think it's about
Yeah.
there.
Okay, this is all correct, but the marking left on a round that was ejected versus fired are less obvious because the brass doesn't heat up, so it's easier to argue against. They will call it junk science with their own experts, likely. There is a lot here from interviews and interrogations. I'll be interested to see the nature of the questions to the witness on whether they were leading or not. Also, curious if Alan really left the bullet out there unanswered, like that you would think. Oh my gosh. Like that, you would think he would deny it came from his weapon, strongly regardless of what the investigators said. Of course, you would think a guy with a CWP and hunting experience would know he had a round chamber too. This
Travis
is
is
why
in the.
grammar is so important, right?
I know.
This is so important,
Yeah. Hey,
even when
Travis.
texting. Hi, Travis.
Yeah, Travis. I hope you've seen, or if you haven't seen yesterday's live, I hope you go back and watch that one. That one will show again the Fortson having knowledge prior to the memo dropping. Um, that's what we were going over yesterday. Today we went back a little bit further, and just to see his thoughts, because obviously he's a smart dude. But anyways, yeah. So that's what we're reading now. We went from June 29th or something like that of last year, yesterday, not last year, this year, but we went back to basically, when they kind of claimed like the first leak to happen, but that was in December. But anyways, we're back in 2022 to see what he's talking about. Really good thoughts, though, Charmaine? Like meaning, like I said, it's
Oh, he definitely had insight.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Especially considering, like I said, if people are saying that he got his information from the defense. Well, the
certainly
defense hadn't seen any of the discovery by this point. I mean, he was getting this information from somebody else, and that somebody else is on the law enforcement side. Fight me on it if you want, but
yeah,
what's the date that Baldwin and Rosie were actually assigned to this case? Like, it was in
it
November, so it was right around this time,
was
and
right
they
around
wouldn't
this
have known all
time.
this.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have known all this. So argue with me if you want, but law enforcement was telling this guy this stuff.
Well, law enforcement. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Or somebody close to law enforcement. No different than the Barbara McDonald stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not, I know that wasn't under a gag order or whatever, but it was still, I don't even know what you'd call it. They weren't supposed to be talking about it, and they were, and that's
Of course. Yeah.
the bottom line. That's the fact.
Yeah.
So reading this over and over, I'm struck by the fact that if the girls were chosen by opportunity, then how fortunate was the witness that saw him on the bridge on platform 1 and turn and left. That person could have been the victim had they crossed the bridge. Did they never cross the bridge, or did their spidey senses turn them away? Also, had he chose them, then the girls may still not have been out of the woods as easily, could have come up upon this and still been in danger. Not sure who the witness was, but you gotta think they have a lot of regret not warning the girls of the guy on the bridge that day if they had any weird feeling. They shouldn't feel guilty, but it's human nature that we blame ourselves. That person lived to be a solid witness against this predator. Those are good points. Never thought of it that way. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's because those, like Abby and Liberty, were the only two that day that actually crossed the bridge all the way. Maybe that's how he
Right.
made his decision. That's freaking sad, man.
Mhm.
Anyone know where these photos are again? If it is the hatchback, then that explains some of the confusion from witnesses that saw a car but didn't realize that they would be needing to describe the car later. A PT Cruiser is a hatchback. The Ford Focus hatchback has some smart car vibes. I assume they were talking about a hybrid here. Edit. I found the pics in Delphi Doc Sub, and it was in fact a Ford Focus hatchback. And honestly, like my daughter used to drive a PT Cruiser, and I don't know how anybody would mix up a PT Cruiser with a Ford hatchback.
I don't
They're-
either.
the PT Cruiser has a very unique frame to it,
Don't you
a
find it
style.
Don't you find it funny though, Charmaine, that how KK's grandma or whatever had a purple PT Cruiser?
Yeah, I do. And I mean, I said it, I think it was on one of your lives that I said that this case has changed a lot in my life, in that I used to think there's no such thing as a coincidence. And because
Yeah,
of Kegan Kline and all this stuff, I firmly believe now that there are some coincidences that you just can't explain.
right. Yeah,
So,
it's
and
just one
that's,
of those things, right? Okay.
yeah, it's just crazy, crazy coincidences. But I think that it could be just a coincidence. Yep, he seems to tell the police the truth all the way up until he sits down on that bench. I don't see where it states what he says after that, but we know he claims to not have seen the girls, and a witness states the girls were heading right to him. So, he tell the truth as long as he can, and then he has to deviate because he knows what comes after those girls pass him on the bridge or on that bench and head out onto the bridge. If it truly was a conservation officer that had been assisting the Delphi police and sheriff, then it sadly could have been that they just didn't respect him as an equal and dismiss his information as unsubstantiated. They had him from almost day one and didn't follow the evidence. They followed what they wanted to believe, which was Ron Logan at the time. And I'm going to stop there because this is where I'm at. Law enforcement is supposed to take every single tip seriously, and I'd like to believe that they did, but don't even get me started on Doolin. Like, honestly, don't even get me started. And I haven't heard Tobe mentioned yet, but those two bungleheads,
I
I
know.
swear.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is so
Yeah.
unnecessary, and the blame points directly at those two,
Absolutely.
without question.
Yep. On there. I was gonna say, and Charmaine, finish off all the way up till November 30th, like all the November 30th stuff, and then I'll start reading from the. Oh, you still got a bit to go there. Holy shit, you
Yeah.
still got a bit to go there. Holy shit, I'm just scrolling. Okay, yeah. So finish up all the November 30th stuff, and then I'll start from December 1st.
Okay. I have this exact model, but 9mm, and it's not the most concealable weapon out there. It is a full-size weapon. It is inexpensive too, so if he didn't know that he had ejected a round while chambering another, then he certainly believed he was okay to keep it in his possession. I'm glad he did, as it's likely going to be part of what convicts him. This is them aligning their charging document, PCA, and the choice to go with felony murder. They believe that they can show at the very least that he is the guy that took them down the hill. Hopefully, they get the final thing they need to prove the rest, so there is no doubt. I dropped a pin at the CPS building and the cemetery, 23-minute walk. That didn't include how long it took him to get up to the cemetery from the crime scene. He claims he left the trail at 3:30 p.m. and he was seen on the highway heading west at 3:57 p.m., so that all checks. He is helping the case against him and still denying it at the same time. I'm shocked more people didn't see him. Edit. Just adding that he could have strayed off the road closer to the tree line for as long as possible until he absolutely had to get out onto the road more, probably around the trailhead. I don't think he ever intended to leave that way because he never intended to chase anyone across the water. That's fair. I've said it here already, but I can honestly believe He wanted to be interrogated. I could go further, but it's just my opinion on how I read his psychology in all of this. I think you were close. I think he wanted to be interrogated, but not give himself up easily. Now it's been 5 years since they didn't take him seriously. I think being all muddy and bloody might keep him from heading back down the trail. No, they have had the statement, they just didn't have their suspect because they ignored the guy holding the huge flashing arrow at himself. It's too bad that we can't see
Right?
like all the comments in this conversation.
Yeah.
The PCA had it in there. Can someone help me out on what I'm missing in the part described by the single female witness that is on CCTV pulling into the entrance at 1:46 p.m., then walking to the high bridge and seeing bridge guy on platform 1 before heading back, passing Libby and Abby, and then being seen again leaving just 3 minutes after arriving at 1:49 p.m. on the same camera. Then it states she is seen leaving the trail west on the same camera at 2:14 p.m. What is going on with the excerpt about this witness? That's very confusing. Do you get that, Sunny? Is that all legit?
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I was too busy grabbing something from behind my thing as you were reading that one. So hold on, let me read that. Just give me 1 sec. Okay, can someone help me out with what I'm missing in this part described as a single female witness that is on the CCTV camera pulling into the entrance at 1:46 and then walking to the high bridge and seeing BG on the platform. One before heading back, passing Libby and Abby, and then being seen again leaving just 3 minutes after arriving on the same camera. Then it states she's seen leaving the trail west on the camera. Oh, I have to honestly think about that one. Unless someone in chat can make our brains not hurt for a second on this one. Are they talking about Betsy Blair here? Yeah, I just move on. If somebody in chat,
Okay. Okay. Maybe it'll go on to talk about it here. It basically says she did all that, arrived, walk, left in 3 minutes, 1:46 to 1:49, but then also mentions 2:14 after those 2 times. This particular account is confusing. I understand all the locations, people, and happenings, except that 3-minute window, and also the second departure time. Unusual and almost feels like a mistake. And I mean, it's probably Betsy Blair because didn't you guys go through messages last night that say they're probably not going to use her because she would be more apt to help the defense's timeline and not for conviction, I think.
yeah, I'd literally just I'm thinking that they're talking about that, but I would have to literally go back to the whole thing and read that again in the PCA.
That time actually works out if you drop a pin from the crime scene to where he was spotted, 23 minutes, so add in the time to get through some rough terrain and you get 3:30, 27-minute walk, 3:57 sighting. Okay. I just don't see it that way. There are not a lot of towers in this small area. They never find him if he doesn't come forward and place himself at the scene in his 2017 statement, which means no second interview, no search, no gun, no bullet match, etc. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. The redactions didn't let my brain realize they brought back up Kelsey's car at the 1:49 timestamp. Thank you.
Okay, that was Kelsey's. Okay.
Is it possible they were part of the other people mentioned that day on the bridge after 2:13 that saw neither girls or the actual BG? Interesting. I wonder if they were eventually brushed off as unsubstantiated, or the cops believed they'd crossed someone else's path that they thought was BG. It would be better markings when fired due to the heat up brass being softer. So that's about the bullet.
Okay, so I'll start now. Take a drink if you need to. Refresh.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know that was a good spurt there. So it says December 1st, you guys. I don't think it would be that obvious to someone if their head was on a swivel trying to threaten and manage multiple victims in his crime scene with his heart racing and head spinning through the scenarios of what he needs to do to pull this thing back together after ending up all wet and muddy chasing them through the creek. There is no certainty that he knew, and I don't think he did. Not everyone handles firearms frequently, and even if they do, accidents happen all the time. I'm telling you, he legit wanted to get integrated. In chat, just to ask you guys, and I'll come back to it, but do you guys feel like he was wanting to be interrogated? I mean, I get why he's saying that, uh, some people, they just, like I said, I don't know, some narcissists out there just do things for those reasons, right? Like they want to, I don't know, it's like probably another fantasy he has going on about sitting in integrate. I don't know. What do you think about that quickly, Charmaine? Do you think he wanted to be integrated?
No, God, no, I really don't. I think that he came forward as a way because he knew that those witnesses had seen him on the trail. And I think he was just trying to get ahead of it. And I think that he thought he was successful because he never heard back. You know what I mean? I think that's how he was able to continue living his life for the next 5 years because he knew that he had tipped himself in,
Yeah, like
basically.
I mean, I'm not feeling that vibe myself. Um, and I think too, he wanted to kind of get ahead of it as well. And he's probably shitting his drawers when the video actually came out, and he was probably like, "Oh, for fuck's sakes," But nothing happened. Nothing. Right? Nobody could claim who he was, and nothing. Uh, I'd still have a hard time not knowing my husband and his walk, even though they just gave a little bit. But I don't know. That's the part that I always feel like is strange, is that his wife's had to look at this thing, but how much did she actually pay attention to the Delphi case? Like, yeah, his picture is plastered everywhere and that, but isn't it? It's just so strange that in a small town of that small, in a CVS, and there's some kind of like clear features and clothing in a sense that you would think, that you would kind of know the gist of if your husband kind of looked like that, but we don't know that how much she really paid attention to the case, because probably secretly, um Richard Allen is, well, I don't know, right? Because like this is, okay, normally somebody that does this crime is going to go onto their computer or something, and in their history, they're going to show that they're keep pulling up the Delphi because they want to know the latest shit that's going on. Of course you would want to, that's just kind of a given. So I'm not ready to believe that with the defense that there's nothing on any of his devices. I'm going to kind of think that they said that they hadn't gone through everything. That was clearly said in the memorandum. So, and again, so maybe at that point they hadn't come across it in a sense. Who knows? I can't believe if he did this that there's nothing anywhere. I think that there would have to be something somewhere. Because, like I said, it's kind of like Kagan Klein, is in Las Vegas and he's pulling up the freaking, Sandy Hook case, and stuff like that, and looking up about DNA and stuff. Do you think that out of all that devices that there's probably got to be something on there of a search history and stuff of, Delphi, and
Man,
like it would be abnormal not for there to be.
there would be, but I mean, for nobody to have any even idea that he was ever on, like, had any kind of social media at this point is just super bizarre to me
Yeah,
because
it is super bizarre.
you know what I mean? And they took so many devices. So I think there's obviously some unknown profiles or social media activity, of course,
Mhm.
but not necessarily connected to. But
Right.
then we've heard rumblings that don't be surprised if Kagan's name comes back up in relation to some of that electronic footprint. So I mean, I can't
Right.
say anymore.
I know.
It you think you know and you
You
think you
think
have
you
a
know
good
something.
grasp, and then
Yeah.
it gets all messed up.
Yeah, right. Okay. So it says, I only know one person from the FBI here, and he's an absolute doofus that I wouldn't trust to find his car in an empty parking lot. I really like his, it reminds me of Tom Webster, little jabs in there at times, when he's cracking little jokes. I agree that they are similar to the average Joe, though, in my information. I also think remembering that when you had no reason to pay much attention at the time probably played a huge factor. The relative generic similarities combined with the fact that there is video of Richard heading there and he admits to parking his car there and makes other witnesses being slightly off mean next to nothing. I believe that the person that said smart car likely didn't mean the make of the car, but rather that they meant it was a hybrid car. Those terms to people, as the world has changed, has gone from smart products to smart homes to smart cars, hybrids, electric, etc. Leaves me confused by all the terms and jargon that they don't fully know or understand. Just my take. So it means nothing ultimately, but I think it's correct. The biggest piece against this train of thought is that he isn't sitting in a jail cell today if he doesn't contact police himself 5+ years ago. I still see no way to believe that he didn't show up there with a clear goal to kill a susceptible stranger if the opportunity presented itself. I would be curious to know if he got lucky that day or if it had been periodically hanging out there on the other days looking for a chance. And this is the time that he got, because remember, it's a snow day, right? Might be worth reviewing that on the part of the police and investigators. It says, I agree. I am torn on this. Everything to me says that this is planned to kill someone, but most likely he had no particular person picked out. However, the fact that he arrived and got into position so close to the arrival does seem odd. I think that the SOB just had things fall into place for him. I think that the lady that turned around would have been the victim had she crossed the bridge, but I would readily believe he knew who would be there if there was evidence. Right. Right. I mean, it's always like 50-50. Well, when it, like, honestly, with Delphi, I think he had one plan that went sideways when the girls fled across the river. That is why the additional assaults may not have taken place. If that's true, but I agree that he initially planned to do so, all of that prior to the murder. Um, I keep trying to highlight so that you guys can see where I'm at on the screen. Remembering there is a mention that several other people arrived and left after 2:13 p.m. when RA and the girls would have been down the hill by then. So it is possible that all the people were there and saw each other. Again, some details will be fuzzy for a lot of witnesses due to the fact that they had no reason to remember anything at the time that they were experienced it. My 2 cents. He said that a couple times throughout these things. My 2 cents. He hugged the tree line as long as he could, and then when he no longer was able to, he crossed the road to distance himself from the trail a little bit, and then he was seen on the side before getting to where the car was parked. The number one person that has helped the defense is the person who misfiled the RA statement. That led the other LE mistakes, and all of that will be used by the defense to frame the entire investigation of a blundering mess. Absolutely. That is obviously one thing almost all defenses rely on in this type of case where they were lost for 5 years. It could be of the victims potentially. Maybe one set was killed in their sleep and wait, that's Moscow. You guys ignore that. Ignore that. A lot of hybrids have a similar look. It's just different than the standard car. He was part of the people mentioned, but then after 2:13 p.m., I'm guessing, which means that much of his experience isn't relevant to the PCA, presumably because RA and the girls were down the hill. The couple under the bridge is curious, though, if BP Pearson there was stating facts when I heard her mention FSG, flannel shirt guy, and those, which is McCain, and those two, because we didn't know who that was. Correct, but you could just stay inside the woods as long as possible, then cross over to the north side of the road in an effort to avoid walking directly in front of the house, sitting on the road that was just west of the Hoosier Harp store, where I think he was actually seen. Then, once clear of the few residences and the sidewalk to the old CPS building from the Freedom Bridge, begin, despite all that, okay, sorry, a little pop-up came up. Then once clear of those few residences in South Carolina, I said that, bridge begins, you cross back in order to take that to your car, and then you leave heading from the crime scene or away from the crime scene. This is my opinion of what happened, because it would make sense to stay concealed as long as possible, right? Which makes sense. But nothing about this case makes sense. I said he crossed to avoid walking directly in front of the homes, safer to cross the street than had to cross back. So yeah, so if you guys don't understand what he's saying there, he's basically saying that he's on the opposite side, like the side that the Hoover hard store would be on. And then when he gets towards the CPS, he crosses back over, and to kind of give a, if somebody sees him or whatever, that it's giving him more of a distance from the same side of the street. That was definitely my take on that. Potential, there was a trail of some kind, any type of evidence from muddy footprints to some blood trail that went that way. Probably not likely that they found that or would have came out or been hinted at, but possible. I'd say that they'd known to walk the escape route. Then they would have found something though. Let's see. This is someone's guess and likely a bad one. This is not supported by anything other than he was on 300. If he planned where to park, where to go, and how he was going to do this, then for sure would know that he needed to stay in the tree line until he had to cross the road to avoid the houses and then back over to get to the car again. Even if he didn't plan to exit that way, which is, I think, is likely, he would still see or know those houses and try to avoid them. Same with staying in the woods. It's incomprehensible that he walked out onto the road the entire way. Right. And you'd have to be an effing idiot if you did it. I don't know, but I hope families in Delphi take a look into the YouTube comments and hammer time all those people posting quantum level crazy conspiracy accusations against them when there is very good suspects sitting in jail. I would highly recommend not accusing people of murder without verifiable evidence. He must be talking about me on that one. No, I'm just kidding. He absolutely gave the defense reasonable doubt at the same time. I think he's a horribly mistaken and likely just can't get past the fact that at least one of the girls was simultaneously being chatted up by a catfish sicko and then was in the wrong place at the wrong time when our suspect decided he was going to go through with his plan. This is only my suspicion, so I will not completely be surprised or skeptical if they can prove otherwise. Yes, that is the internet. It is designed to make sure someone who is responsible from someone being in a situation that led to their death from getting off. For example, you rob a bank and get into shoot, which results into death of an innocent civilian. That is your murder charge, whether you shot one person or not. It should be. They never got or get shot if you didn't commit a felony in robbing the bank and shooting a firearm. I'll finish the rest of this 6th one, and then you can take over. Okay, Sherman? I'll do the December 6th combo. I don't know. It seems to me that the killer came to the house with the intent of killing one girl. Then wait, that's Moscow. You guys stop that. This is 100%. People had no reason to get a good description of the car. They were throwing out guesses. They all saw his Ford Focus and then threw a guess on the wall on what it was. They are in the ballpark enough to match a hatchback like he had and was caught on tape. What he said happened. The car was his and it was parked at the CPS building. RA told the truth all the way up until the point that he crossed paths with those girls and after. Oh man, me too. From what I see out there and specifically on YouTube, it seems the majority of population is low functioning and more interested in a good story rather than reality. I hope the prosecutor works in his entertainment skills while presenting this thing. The witness probably recently saw one or something. They are dark enough to be confused with black. They are also hatchback like his Focus. It's simple that the witness made a mistake in guessing the make and the model. Yeah, because I wouldn't know shit. Honestly, if I seen a car, freaking unless it was a Camaro or something like Ferrari, I pretty much wouldn't know what the car is. You know what I mean? I'm not good at, like, I have no idea. He should have kept it more generic since he wasn't sure. And that's Idaho. Okay. I would like to know the date that he spoke to the conservation officer. I still stand by the idea that he was doing the whole thing and interjecting himself to see what was a known thing. I think he truly wanted to be interrogated. Not sure he still feels that way, but at the time, I think he wanted to be questioned. Hopefully, we're able to find ammo at his home that matched the bullet at the crime scene, especially if it is the same lot. What does this say? The crime scene bullet is a lock. Okay. At Idaho, I have a 9mm round in my hand currently. That does, and another that doesn't. But that doesn't. What? I have a 9mm round in my hand currently that does, and another that doesn't. But the one that doesn't has identifying markings that would at least allow them to say it was the same manufacturer, caliber, type of ammo. Oh, I think I went past it. I went past the 6. Yeah. So start there, Charmaine, where it says I agree.
Okay, I agree. I have always thought about this when I see and hear about these large investigations. I would think I would want to see each piece of evidence and tip myself because I would trust very few people that much. I always just chalked it up to me not being in that line of work, so I probably didn't get it. But now I don't know. I would have a hard time taking someone's word for something being unfounded if I was heading an investigation after this debacle. They should have been working for a search warrant. Is that what that says? They should have been working for a search warrant and making an arrest within days of that interview with Alan. Glad it worked out all these years later, but they got lucky their blunder was recovered. Moscow. He is law enforcement and was likely part of the local law enforcement being used to respond to all of the tips and information in the early days. He was probably briefed and told exactly what they needed from anyone that he was given to take statements from. With some of the stories that those guys have to sift through in their jobs, I'm a little surprised he didn't pick up on the story being incomplete on the part of the suspect. He seems to end at that point. He sits on the bench, but then doesn't leave for another 1 hour and 45 minutes. Seeing the statement and all that will be interesting. I wish it was recorded, but I'm sure the second one was, so one day we will see it most likely. Maybe.
My thing on, sorry. Maybe.
You mean the new press? I don't know if this is Israel podcast. That's probably not it. Moscow
No.
murders.
You'll simply always see at Libby and Abby.
Okay. I agree with this.
Yeah.
Dateline goes in. I agree with this. Dateline goes in early and makes contact with people to build a relationship in order to go back when the trial is all said and done and have those relationships in order to produce content. They will be present in Delphi for the initial court hearing for the accused, and it already has a journalist assigned. I agree about the hat. It looks to have a brim like the many others he is pictured wearing, but I see R.A. clear as day in that photo. The moment I saw the first picture of him, it was immediately obvious, yep, that's him, whereas nobody else ever mentioned. Could I say the same? It's layered clothing, but you throw a large hoodie on under a Carhartt coat made of that material, and it's going to make you look bulkier. Denying this guy is in the video is a wild thing to do. He has all but said it's him in his interviews. There were breaching fish. What? There were breaching fish in the helicopter video I saw the day they found the bodies, or maybe it was in the drone video. I don't know, but either was, he's full. I think it's supposed to say either way. I don't know, but either way, he's full of it. He was there to catch fish because he was out trolling like he probably often did, and that day he got what he wanted. Agreed. Also, curious how his tale ends with him on the bench just before the girls would arrive at him, and then he has 1 hour and 45 minutes of time to account for. Just a second, need a drink.
Yeah. So question on that one. So, oh shit, what was my question now? It was there. Question. What was my freaking question? Ah, forget it. It's gone.
Okay.
I seriously had a question or a thing I wanted to ask everyone. Anyways, we'll come back to that if I remember. Agreed.
Okay, so yes, it's a little tease from Whacked Out Conspiracy Theory group that has formed in the YouTube comments of a few channels. Recently, one of them directly named the family of me. Recently, one of them directly named the family of one of the victims as the killers and said the girls were likely killed in the early morning hours of the 13th, with none of the events of that day actually happening as we know them to.
I think you meant to say
Yes.
the 14th there.
Maybe.
Because
This
it's definitely
one's a
not
little
the
messed up.
13th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one second. The question I did want to ask chat was if they believe, does any of you guys that are watching in the 149 people, and again, if you haven't hit that like, guys, can you hit that for us? But the question I want to ask you guys is, do you think that Richard Allen, if it's Richard, like, right? I mean, blah, 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 innocent, proven guilty shit. But anyway, do you guys believe that he had been out there prior and was kind of checking out the situation first, and then because he knew perhaps it was a snow day, that he went back again just to see, do you guys think he simply went there prior to kind of check out the place and see if he was gonna do you
I
think
think that due to what we've seen for ourselves on Kathy Allen's Facebook page and other pictures and stuff, I do think that he was kind of a regular. He was familiar with the trail system
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And it seems like the entire family really liked that bridge, scenery wise or whatever.
Right.
This stuff here, and I mean, I don't know why I didn't consider it, but that could have been his line. Like, okay, the first person that crosses that bridge, or the first female that crosses that bridge all the way, that's my cue. That's my sign. That's what I'm going to do. And it just unfortunately so happened that it was Abby and Libby, and maybe two young girls didn't threaten him enough to deter him from going after two instead of just one. But I absolutely now think that this was something that was obviously building up in his head, and he probably played out scenarios in his head, and
Right.
you know what I mean? And maybe he knew, maybe he didn't know it was a snow day, but maybe he was targeting young girls, or maybe he was targeting any female, who knows? But that could be that could have been the trigger. Whoever crosses that bridge is my target. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing is that it's not like it's unfathomable to believe that like all those years there was something that he thought about, wanted to do, like, you know what I mean? That it built up. Like, it's not to me unfathomable to believe that, even though it's hard to believe, but mostly because usually, an SK and stuff like that, they start once and they do it again and again. It's not really unfathomable for me to believe that somebody had this fantasy, and at the age of 45 or whatever, they finally did it. It's kind of like Koberger, even though he's a younger dude, 29, that he had this fantasy of, him wanting to do something. You know what I mean? Those deep, evil thoughts that are in your head, and then the one day it plays out and stuff like that. And as for the person asking about the covering, they've always said that there was some sort of scarf, something like in his face or whatever there under his chin. Um,
And Tom Webster points out very well in some of his deep dives, because he really dug into Bridge Guy just like you did, Sunny. But it's pretty clear in Tom's coverage that there is some kind of cloth or something stuffed into the top of his jacket. And it does seem like it could have just been a face covering that he
yes,
pulled down,
that he just
you
pulled down.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely something white there for sure.
Yeah.
And that's what was said by one of the witnesses. But, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he had like a little black thing and then just pulled it down. Like, as for the whole stalking, like someone went to the store and bought a female stocking and put it over their head like a bank robber, that I don't believe whatsoever. To me, that's just going a little bit too far with that whole scenario. I think he was out there to disguise himself in a sense and to a point, but not like not to the point of ridiculous.
Mhm.
I just think,
And there's a couple things in chat. I mean, there's lots in chat, but for me personally, I'd like to talk about. I see through, but I also believe this was an opportunity to kill. Then I heard about a yellow rope, which would suggest pre-planned. That's very true, but also, and this is one of my rabbit holes, so don't put too much stock in it. But in one of the helicopter and the police scanner audio that can be listened to, you do hear one of the recoverers asking for more rope when the next crew comes in. So, like, I don't know if it's something they needed to retrieve the girls and get them up to where the medical examiner van was. But I personally, I think that rope was left there by the crime scene investigators. That's
was
just my own
the
personal.
yellow rope.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But I mean, I don't know for sure, obviously, but that's how I took it all. And
Yeah.
then Heather, you said there are so many cases being solved through DNA. Not that one. I think it was your previous comment. And then one earlier too, that there were no witnesses that saw him there previously. But I have to ask, if you don't know somebody and you're out even at a mall or whatever, and there's absolutely no reason for you to be paying attention to a stranger, would you be able to say, oh, I've seen him there, or I saw him on the trail before? What I was saying is that pictures that his wife took of him and his family at the trail system and at the bridge on more than one occasion kind of makes me think that they were frequent visitors to the trails. And that's all I meant by that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this is the one that I wanted to talk about. Heather again said, I think he knew they were going to be there. I can't get past the timing of parties. And that to me is so true. And also, it's hard. Like, there's so many coincidences that are hard to get past. The biggest one to me is not talked about a whole lot, but how unlucky, how unfortunate are these two girls who were 13 and 14 years old, and they're being normal teenage girls, to be catfished by somebody completely unrelated and talking to that catfish that very same morning,
Yeah.
and
Sharmina, I'll
then
be
for
right back.
this to
Okay.
happen.
I'll just give me a minute.
How
I'll be right
Okay,
back.
like, how can we even begin to wrap our heads around these coincidences without them connecting Kagan and all the shit that he did and said over the years? How can we wrap our heads around all of those conspiracies? I think it's, for normal common sense thinking people, it's impossible to not think there's something there. So the timing of the witnesses and stuff, I mean, it's all it's circumstantial, no doubt, but it's there, right? It's there. What else do we have? Usually start young. Yeah, this is a very odd age to start. And now that his DNA is in the system, Alexa, you would think that if there was any unsolved crimes that he was involved in, they probably would have made a match by now, unless he was able to pull this off more than once and didn't leave DNA at a site, or it was contaminated or partial or whatever. That's possible, but 46 is very young to start this stuff. Um, Anna, Kathy Chapin, but the others knew Dennis Rader, BTK, had a nasty side, abused animals, etc. And we don't know, but what we do know, and I don't know if we've seen a document or anything, but we do know that there was domestic issues in that home, and the police had been called there before. Now, did Richard Allen really seek medical attention the next day for a cut? Or was it true that he admitted himself into a mental health facility? I don't think that we know that for certain, but there could be a lot of things that we don't know. I mean, obviously, there's got to be, because there's no way that, I don't know, there's no way that what's out there is everything that they've got. There's no way. Also been said yellow rope was used by skin divers who worked. Yeah, absolutely. They used rope as to cross the creek. Right. Like I don't think that RA took I don't think the perpetrator took that yellow rope with him. That's my own personal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had DNA by Bianca from the start. Absolutely, but it wasn't anything that matched Richard Allen. That's why it wasn't a DNA case up until the time of his arrest. Again, so that's just a matter of if it comes out in time, if there actually is. Like I said, the rumor mill at the moment seems to be that there was DNA in that motorcycle cover, and of Abby's and Libby's and whatever, but that's not fact. People are claiming it. But let's just put it this way. Let's hope that there is.
And 6 years later, everybody keeps saying 5 years later, but I believe that search warrant was October 2022. So I guess that's 5.5 years later. Any DNA that was on that motorcycle cover would have been contaminated by then anyways. And Deb says no DNA in the motorcycle cover. That's not it.
That was the group that was talking about that stuff. So what's
And I
different?
wonder, yeah, and I wonder, and I'm not calling you out or anything like that, Deb, but I mean, how do you know? Like, how do you know? How does anybody know? Because it's not put out there by law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, what was kind of going around was that, and that's from that, that group over there. And I see it that way. She said she's telling you that it's not.
I understand, but I understand what you're saying, and I understand you probably have a source, but if it's not put out by law enforcement, if you know, then that means law enforcement has told you. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, Deb, I'm really not, but that's kind of my whole point. Like, where are you getting that information? I'm not asking you to tell us, but if it's not given to you by law enforcement, then we shouldn't even be considering it. To me.
Well, that's the thing, is that it's, like I said, a few rumors going around. One of the things that Fortson was talking about was about something else that people were talking about, which was the garage of Webster's and stuff like that. So this just becomes those people that are saying that they have files and stuff like that, and they know and stuff like that, or inside information. And again, it's not that it's fact, and if they do, so be it. But it's nothing that we can confirm. But this is the stuff that that always will happen, because again, people are claiming that they have files and information and stuff like that, and rumor mill. So it just gets chalked up as a rumor, to be honest with you, at the end of the day.
And I mean, it's unfortunate that if, like I said, if hopefully, in my opinion, best case scenario, he takes a plea agreement in exchange for a full confession, then we will know his truth, his version of what happened, and hopefully it aligns with the evidence. But my mind at this point, because of everything the defense has done and how secretive the prosecution has been and law enforcement, I honestly have a hard time believing we're ever going to know what really happened. Because if he does confess, it's going to be on his terms, his way, and his side of the story. And everything else that the prosecution is going to do and the defense is doing, they're just building their theory based on the evidence that they have. Nobody's ever going to know 100% what actually happened and why.
True. Yeah.
you know, and it's so
We
sad.
might not know a lot of anything, to be honest with you, at the end of the day. We don't know that this will ever make it to jury trial or anything. Maybe, who knows?
I gotta put my dogs in the house. They're barking
Oh,
outside,
yeah,
so
absolutely. On there. Um, take that one off. Whoever is guilty, I guess, um, whoever's guilty, I guess he will blame the victims for making him attack. Yeah. DNA and fingerprints dated for 5 to 6 years ago were with the yeah. I mean, I know about that one. Like, it's not like I forget that myself. I mean, I know exactly what they had said. I remember when that lady was at the interview. This lady said to Doug Carter, like, "What about the DNA at the crime scene?" And Doug Carter's like he's like, "That's something I'm not talking about," basically, or whatever. And then she's like, "But that guy over there said that there was DNA," and she pointed out to Dope. And the thing was is that it was said, and it was said that, but it's not the type of DNA that you would whatever. I mean, here, like you guys in the around Logan affidavit, they're looking for animal hairs, so that's DNA. Type of thing. So, and plus, whatever else it was said. But anyways, bottom line is that it was said prior to Richard Allen being arrested that this wasn't a DNA case. That I believe. Do I just hope and pray that should like, and that's just based on the fact of this case. If it does go to, you know, jury and stuff like that, and there's no plea deal or anything like that, um, who knows what we'll get to know. I'm hoping that the truth will come out, but I don't know. I'm not holding my breath. I'm not holding my breath with this case with anything anymore. On there. Uh,
if we decided to hold our breaths, I think we'd all be turning blue because like I've lost all faith in all sides, honestly.
Me too. And I hate to feel that way, but I do. I
Yeah.
really do.
How
And
could you? How can you not though? You know.
yeah. Um, okay. So do you want to go back to,
I have no idea where I was. My
it's
dog is
okay.
licking me. Just a sec.
Oh,
Get out of
um,
here. Go.
you're December, I think you read that one. I think you're on, December 14th.
Well, whatever, it was gone. It was batshit crazy stuff though, and not too different from the stuff posted below me now. It was not directed at you unless you completely edited a post. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely didn't intend to reply to you. Edit, separate lawyer and bright group above. We're discussing an insane conspiracy video, and that is what I clicked on to reply, but it went here. Who's DG? Grandpa DG? I think you might be mistaken there. You likely know that. Oh, you likely know that though, huh? Come out and say what you mean, speak clear, and make the accusations and put your name on it. Give it to the police. You won't do that though because you are trolling and you don't care about justice as it's all entertainment and wild scenarios for you, so you don't have to face reality. The story you can create in your head entertains you more. Can't give up on that even when it falls apart. Get help. That message goes out to all the conspiracy theorists. Just saying. The Daily Mail article was an absolute mess, but yes, the lecture from that duo is laughable. They have proven many times that they believe in rules for thee,
Give me a
not
second.
for me.
Who's trying to call me? 1 second. Give me a second. You keep reading.
Okay. They have proven many times that they believe in rules for thee, not for me, and would prefer to be the sole source for any case they cover. Anyone that gets a perceived or actual advantage over them through a relationship is hammered by them, but I'm not sure they feel the same when inside the source is their guy. When the inside source is their guy. I still listen to anyone putting out decent stuff, including them, which comes with some good and some huge misses. I'm more interested in the possibility of finding the same ammo at his house still or proof of purchase in some way, shape, or form, depending on when he bought it, considering that he's already willing, said, I bet they can just ask him if he was missing around and he will say yes, but I never saw those girls. I know grammar is hard for some people. One other thing to keep in mind about this particular firearm is that he has a decocking lever, which allows you to chamber around and then decock the hammer to carry with the hammer down, which is intended to help prevent accidental discharges. So, just another reason he could have not realized a round was chambered, because he saw the hammer down and pulled the side back because of this. If he does this in a panic or during a chaotic scene, then it is very plausible that he doesn't notice or hear the extracted round because his eye focus was on the females he was attempting to control. He then ultimately decided to kill the victims and move their bodies near where the bullet had extracted out to, I think, without realizing the bullet was there. It won't. Oh, that's Idaho. I agree. A 40 cal pistol is less common than a 9mm. The fact that Richard Allen has a matching weapon, lives near the crime scene, places himself at the scene of the crime for the totality of the events, admits to parking at the abandoned CPS building, unusual spot to park, and also can't account for his time starting with when he was last seen by the single adult female witness on the first platform, just before he would cross paths with the girls, all line up to his involvement. Oh yeah, he also happens to admit to wearing the exact same outfit as BG that day, and maybe was still in possession of it, as well as being a dead ringer in appearance to the guy in the BG video in height, build, and general appearance. Idaho. So I'm leaning toward what someone else here mentioned a while back. The statement was lost or misplaced. That led to the statements from police talking about wanting to speak to the driver of the car at the CPS building and other similar statements that seemed to be answered in the RA statement. They remembered that information but couldn't recall specifics or find the guy in question. I could be wrong, and RA's statement could have completely been out of their line of sight the whole time. But then I go back to how did it come back into play? What brought it into focus? Because after that long, they should have circled through all the statements many times. There will be a lot of setup on the part of the defense in pretrial depositions too. Also, plenty of coaching on the part of the prosecution ahead of trial as well to help their case, which will be pointed out by the defense. There is going to be a lot for the jury to consider. The jury will not be as versed as the people in this presumably, and that could cut either way depending on their openings. Those present in the courtroom will likely know a great deal about how it'll go after opening statements. That's fair. Do you want to take over, Sunny? Are you here?
Sorry, I just was on mute while you're reading, typically. Okay, so I agree it is the suspect, but I also see where the LEO on a peripheral of what is going on just assume that the information he turned in was acted upon and that they must have determined the guy wasn't involved. He may even have went back and forth questioning himself. He may have been assigned to a lot of different people to take statements from, and he just didn't remember one over the other after it was all said and done to the follow-up on. It's not great and it's disappointing, but not everyone is skilled at this process, and relying on people that aren't skilled left a hole when the statement came up missing. It's extremely frustrating that the OP pointed out how easy this should have been to narrow the search down quickly and solve this thing. That said that the FBI was also there pushing everyone towards RL, which is true, which likely also contributed to this mess. This is entirely, that's Stephanie Thompson or whatever her name is. This is entirely plausible. It could have been based on other witnesses' statements. Oops, sorry, I didn't highlight it, but also used in a way to suggest here would be a good strategy to attempt to fix your mistake. The FBI did continue to push the RL narrative. However, this is the same FBI that let Larry Nassar continue his shenanigans. And that was the guy from that, whatever it was to do with that ice skating thing or whatever it was, due to the incompetence. So, no big shock. They assisted in screwing this case up, but many others share that responsibility. I mean, we all know that Jennifer Coffindaffer was on, like Stephanie Thompson or whatever, friends, whatever, that, like, remember when that post came out over a year ago when Jennifer Coffindaffer, still believed that the BG was Ron Logan? I was literally taken aback by that, to be honest. I kind of hope that they didn't do the door kick, but instead, wait, that's Moscow. Let's get real. Moscow, there is. Okay. No, the guy in the BG video is obviously short and also not near 80-year-old man. Right, exactly. There's no 80-year-old man in that video. Those two things are clear, even if everyone can't agree that it's clearly RA. Absolutely a good comment on that one. Moscow. Journal. I think that the Moscow case, I'm going to have to come back and read thoughts on this, considering I like a lot of his thoughts. Journalists and the public don't need to know how the intricacies of the murder investigation. Keeping things close to the chest just allowed the Idaho investigation to wrap up quickly. The same would have happened with Delphi had they not stupidly misplaced the statement for RA 5 years plus. Both of the institutions can get their intel via the court filings and the trial or whatever they can obtain on their own via journalistic practices. I gotcha. I agree with that 100%. Idaho. Okay. I don't know how I feel about the involvement of others, as it doesn't seem to be the type of crime that would be some large conspiracy. But it is odd that he arrived right as he needed to, and that the girls were being catfished at the time of the murders. I have heard the cops' prosecution really believe in the TK connection, and I've heard rumors that RA and TK working together at a factory previously. I don't know. I can't decide what I ultimately believe, like most people. um, I've heard that the prosecution really believes. Didn't we just read that? Did he like copy and paste it? Oh no, it says a little bit differently. So I've heard that the prosecution really believes the TK connection. Apparently, he worked at the factory where RA worked at some point. I don't know. I've heard on all of this. It appears to be a crime that would involve one, but it's hard to believe a coincidence that the girls were being catfished on the day to get stalked by RA. I feel like this statement, I was looking down at my phone because I was watching a stock ticker. Is just him covering something up there. Yeah, I mean, I do. I think a lot of the discovery is in all the tips. If the defense can show that the tip points to someone else, then they want to see what all is out there. This case has a lot of attention across the country and a lot of people tipping information in they created in their head. You don't. I don't know why, whenever I think of that being said, I can always remember these posts about, oh my God, that guy had a blue jacket. I'm turning him in. And I was like, are you serious? Okay, for everyone that turned in a blue jacket, right? Like I said, poor tip line on that shit. You don't need to know why a judge representing your interests does not or does know why, and he has concluded there's at least a reasonable explanation for him being accused and tried. I want to see that search warrant, PCA. Agreed. And there's a lot of interview time with RA as I understand it. So I'll be curious to see what else he says because he basically just ends his story at the point that he should encounter the girls and then leaves a big stretch of time where he isn't accounted for in conjunction with the murders. So I wonder what he is saying at that point of the interview that isn't in the PCA. A whole lot of fish watching with blinders on. He described the exact same events as the witness. His story ends in the PCA at the moment he would have run into the girls, and his time from that moment on is unaccounted for, which coincides with the murders. What nonsense about him corroborating the story of that eyewitness? Question mark. The one that saw him on the bridge turned and walked the opposite direction and passed the girls heading toward him. That story. RA talked a lot, so we will see what he said he was doing when his story conveniently ends just after he would encounter the girls. Well, he was interviewed at length in October, so we will see what that video shows. The timeline the lady gave when compared to RA's makes it impossible for it to be anyone but him. Of course, you would have to give up whatever theory you are attached to in order to see anything for what it is. Every single person I know in prison, I know both family of my wife's and other unrelated people have been given a bazillion chances to stop being criminals, but it's easier to just be a piece of shit and then and then go have others take care of you for these men. Now, I don't dispute much of what you say, but I don't know a single person that applies to. Every single person I know that has been locked up is a drag on society, takers, not producers. My niece played basketball with this little girl who, along with her sister, had to watch their father come, I'm just going to say, take their mother's life instead of accepting the separation and dealing with his own demons first. Luckily for those girls, had grandparents to help them start over, but their father is scheduled to get out eventually, butchering his wife in front of his kids. I just assume they disposed of him myself and we move on. Every single cousin of my wife's who's been locked up has had a lot of chances and they select the easy route and end up in trouble again. The judges, the prosecutors, the defense attorneys have all tried to help. Just doesn't stick with people raised by people who don't respect societal laws.
I don't agree with that, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was going to say it was a little bit harsh there, but
Well, it is, and I mean, clearly this person has information about the family that he's talking about, but not all criminals were raised by families that don't respect societal laws. That's
right.
That's inaccurate.
I also think that he did this for reasons more tied to the evidence, but the statement you made is exactly why criminal defense is such an uphill battle. Just seeing the suspect sitting there accused is a steep climb for the defense team. Do they sound like speculation that might not be too accurate? This is interesting. I'm curious what your theory is now, as I have some stuff in mind. I heard that Rick is in plenty bad shape too, and that Westville had some really odd stuff happening.
How did he know that? That's interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, did your brain kind of go to the whole like Odin we trust people there?
Not so much, but I'm thinking maybe the Baston stuff. When was that? I think that letter was in June though, so I'm questioning what he was referring to here.
Yeah.
You know, because as far as we know, the defense didn't even have that discovery at this point either. This was in April, so it's
well,
interesting.
It's in April of 2023.
Yeah, yeah, but didn't their memo say that they had just received this evidence dump? I think they called it, and then they had dates, and I don't think any of the dates were prior to June. And then the Boston stuff came out, I believe, in June. So this April date and this comment is interesting to me.
In April, you're right. That the Baston one, was I believe that one was in June. There was two of them.
And I mean, totally possible, but don't. I can't remember. But there's
you have to go back and reference sometimes some of these.
Comments.
Yeah, on there. Great. Can you guys give some thumbs up for anyone that's watching, please? That would be appreciated by us. We're almost running out of our nourishment or water. Do you need a sip still? Mm. Actually, I'm doing okay. You're the one that's feeling ill, sadly. You guys, tonight we've decided to change it. Talking with Alexa, we're gonna come back and Alexa's. We're gonna do Delphi again tonight, instead of Rex Huerman. And so I'm asking Alexa to pull off. So Alexa is our criminal profiler.
Which is awesome. I cannot
Yeah,
wait to hear some stuff
yeah,
from
exactly. So
Alexa.
right,
I'm
and so
dying. I've been dying to
I.
talk to her.
Oh, exactly. So that means that you're gonna come back on tonight, then.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
You're playing hard to get. Shut
Not
it.
at all. Just, I'll see how I'm doing. And if I
Yeah.
don't have to medicate, then I'll come back on.
Just easier to ask her questions when you're like this.
Totally, for sure.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So I told Alexa to screenshot or however she wants to do it. Screenshot some of the things from last night, and the stuff that she was talking about previously and stuff like that, and things that are being said. So that will be a good live tonight with having Alexa on if Charmaine happens to land here tonight as well. Anyways, it'll be a great conversation. I want to really hear Alexa's thoughts on a few things for sure of stuff that is being said. Again, for anyone that doesn't know Alexa, criminal profiler, a graphologist, and a body language expert. She's our good friend here, and we appreciate that. And so, where was I? Okay. So, did I read? I don't think I read this. Just for an FYI, his representation is being provided by public defenders. He is luckily because since there isn't a PDF office, so there had to contract the work out. From that list, there isn't an endless supply of death penalty or life without parole lawyers. So he got an amazing team to represent him. The good thing about that is that hopefully he gets a good defense and justice served, which makes his appeals less likely to succeed since his defense was competent. Don't get it wrong, though. The taxpayers are funding the defense. I don't think you are going to see DNA evidence at the trial. Okay. Right. I was just pointing that out. It seemed as though it was suggested that the accused was funding the defense. Yeah, that isn't what I'm suggesting. I'm stating that I don't think you will see DNA used at trial. What do you know? All right. I just can't say anymore. Would you rather explain the suspicious disappearance of the missing gun or explain potential expert witnesses in ballistics saying that the gun matches a bullet and the gun was found in your house? I think if you're going to try to get away with this, then you have to get rid of the firearm either way. However, we are talking about a guy racking the slide on his firearm that already had a round chambered and didn't think about the ejected round that came from that. So, not the brightest bulb. Okay. It is technically not military base as you don't have to go through the gates on base to access the prison. It does sit on the old Grissom property, though. It'll likely be allowed unless the defense can get the search that produced it tossed. The jury will have the job of deciding which experts to believe. Ooh, what does this one say? The jury will decide if it's pseudoscience, as both defense and prosecution will present experts saying opposite things here. The SIG P226 doesn't land on too many lists of top handguns, but certainly not in that caliber. The 9mm maybe, but then again, it is down to this list a little. I personally own this version. There is no misunderstanding on the witnesses. The accused placed himself on the scene at the time of the murders. Eyewitnesses and video evidence make it impossible for him to not have seen the girls. For some reason, he ends his clear recollection at the point that it would have happened. Why is that? Why is he lying about seeing them? The preponderance of evidence together is a lot. Nobody else saw on the bridge. Nobody else was on the bridge and avoiding being seen by all the witnesses. including RA. He is almost certainly bridge guy and therefore kidnapped the girls, which led to their death, whether he committed the murder himself or not, which he likely did. The question wasn't whether we thought he would be found guilty or if the defense could get him off. It was that if we thought he was guilty, the bar is lower for that by a mile. I think it's clear he's guilty. I also think RA has an amazing defense team and could be found not guilty, potentially. We will see. Um, ooh, what's this one? Let's see. Oh, no, that's you. Oh, starts way up there. Let me just highlight it. I think it was down to here. Okay, we can go through it again. Again, the question is what we think. So the reasonable doubt standard doesn't apply. I think it will get there in court too, but I won't be surprised either way if he's convicted or not. RA admits to being on the trails from 1:30 to 3:30 and oddly mentions looking at stock ticker for some reason, subconsciously covering for trying to hide his face or watching something on his phone. Also, RA admits to being on the first platform to watch fish and admits to parking at the abandoned building despite misnaming it. He also describes the clothes as matching the BG. At 1:26, a group of juveniles take the phone. Take a photo, then cross paths with BG after he heads towards the bridge. This description sounds like RABG to me. 1:27, RA car is seen on video heading towards CPS building. 1:46, lady witnesses see juvenile group crossing a bridge as if they leave the trails and as she heads to the trailhead across from Mears Farm. And then 1:46 to question mark, lady witness parks and walks to the bridge where she sees a matching RA description of clothing on platform 1, just as he says he was. She turns and heads back in the direction of the trailhead where the girls were dropped off. At 1:49, video shows the girls dropped off and that they walked the trail. At 1:49, the lady crosses paths with two females that she states were Libby and Abby, which matches the times. She walks past the trailhead and then back before leaving. RA states that after being on the bridge, he sat on a bench and then left. This would have been at the time he would have seen the girls. 2:13. Girls are ordered down the hill on video by BG in clothing matching what RA said he was wearing. Nobody sees a man matching all the descriptions of BG on the trail after this. Nobody, and there were people on the trail, but RA was in the woods with the victims. RA does not account for this time on the trails at the point he would cross paths with the girls, but there is evidently a lot of talking by RA that we don't know yet from the police interviews. And he says a lot. At 2:14, lady witness seen driving away on a video as she leaves the trailhead. Along with others, she notes that the car parked at the CPS building descriptions are all over the place, but all are in general description that could be the vehicle of RA, who doesn't dispute he was there and parked there, so it doesn't really apply. I don't think muddy and bloody witnesses matter much, but at the time matches up with him spending the time at this crime scene and then leaving and matches RA's rough timeline he gave to him, leaving at 3:30 and then being spotted not long after that on the road heading toward the car. I don't see the confusion at all. It's clear to me how they lay it out, and most of it is framed up by RA himself. I own a SIG P226, and it's not that common, and it's a 40 caliber, and the 40 caliber certainly isn't. You can think it is, but it isn't. I'm not saying it is a unicorn, but it isn't as common as other options for that. So anything to say in that one, Charmaine? Anything that you want to?
I mean, that's a lot, but it's a pretty good, I guess, summary of what he's been talking about.
Yeah. Well, there was something I wanted to bring up with it, but then as I'm reading, I'm forgetting. Because how long was it? Didn't he say he was sitting on that bench for like an hour? I thought. Where did that hour come from? I thought I remember about sitting on that bench for an hour
I'm not
in
sure
his
about
hole.
that.
Am I wrong about that? Okay.
I don't know. My memory is too foggy to say whether you're wrong about
Yeah, it's like you have to
remembering something or not. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you have to keep going back to read it,
Mm-hmm.
to read each thing because again, this is a lot of paperwork, this case, and this is a lot of stuff to read throughout it, and trying to remember every single like 149. Da, 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 da. I mean,
This needs a Tom Webster spreadsheet, you know, where he puts one thing and
yeah,
then the dispute or whatever, and he matches things up. That's what
yeah,
this Reddit stuff needs.
yeah.
But we
So
have to remember too, like this is an ongoing conversation. So this stuff that he's talking about is fresh in his mind. So I mean, I have to
yeah,
kind of think that it's accurate to his recollection of the things that he knew. And I'm going to say new, not speculating, because some of this stuff has been proven now, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
By documents released by the prosecution or whoever.
Anyways, did you want to take over now? Are you ready to take over? Up to you.
Yeah, it is exactly that. Different experts are presented all the time. It happens in the news daily, actually, and in court all the time. He got in front of it thinking the group of youth witnesses or the car that passed him or the lady that approached him on the bridge would recognize him or point him out. He didn't know the video was coming and therefore snitched on himself in a panic. Had he just said nothing, we wouldn't be here now, but we are. And we will see how it goes. Hopefully the move in facilities will get him to a point where his diet is less crappy and he can help his defense and get to the trial or plead. He spoke at length too, so there is a lot we have not seen or read yet. Who spoke at length? All right, do you think he's talking about?
There. You said what? He spoke at length too, so there's a lot we have not seen or read yet.
So I wonder, like, if they're talking about his statement to Doolin, or I mean, was it his interrogation
Well,
in
that's what I was
October?
like. Yeah, like I'm wondering if that's the interrogation part. Let's not seen. Yeah, I'm thinking it's interrogation.
Hmm.
Um,
So now that I have seen Rick, I can see him in the video. I'm not sure how someone that knew him didn't see him, but maybe they never considered it because we often don't like to think people we know are capable of such things. I think it is a pretty I think it is a pretty good bet that Rick is BG. You can say something without explicitly saying something. We see it all the time in interviews and interrogations of people suspected in crimes. They have an urge to tell the truth but maintain power by not giving the full truth. They often try to soften their culpability or try to give something that they think will build them trust with the authorities. Richard Allen had no idea that the video was coming out when he spoke to the conservation officer. Whoops. He got lucky for years, but that was just a cruel joke on him. So that the fact that the only reason he is sitting in jail right now was clear. His own fear and statement out him there. By trying to get in front of the problem he saw, he just put himself in the crosshairs in the future. Okay. I didn't say her description of him is completely reliable. I don't think any eyewitness is completely reliable. He knows the youth saw him, so he specifically mentions them. Just one sec. I feel a coughing fit coming. One sec. My bad. Sorry. Again, only with the above mentioned assumption that the person on the trails is the same person people saw on the bridge It's very possible that people saw him at 1:30 on the trails, but then he went to walk somewhere else. Then someone else dressed similarly was on the bridge at 1:50 p.m., committed the murders and left. And then RA came back sometime later in the 2 hours he was there and crossed the bridge. Rick himself says that he is on the first platform of the bridge after passing those kids as he came from the Freedom Bridge. He likely said this in response to being faced with the statement made by the woman as he was interviewed in October 2022. The time matches him walking there, being seen by the woman, then passing the girls before they made it to the bridge to cross. The girls crossed paths with him as per their conversation that has been alluded to. Was he on the bench, the trail, the bridge? Who knows, but he circled back after deciding what was going to happen, and then Guys Down the Hill comes next. We shall see, but Nick McClelland has his hands full. The phantom RA theory, moving around undetected while another guy moves around undetected, or is he exactly who they both saw and disappeared and wasn't seen because he was in the woods on Logan's property? Not at the time they disappeared, maybe when they were in the woods. Okay. The PCA lays it all out. It states that no witness saw a male on the trail matching the description of RA or BG after 2:13. The woman on the trail from 146 to 214 saw no other male on the trail during that time. The kids saw RA BG heading toward the bridge around 1:30. We may have our own eyes to tell us these things, but it doesn't require that. RA has left himself next to zero wiggle room when his statements are laced with the witnesses. Believe what you want. The real question I want to know is what besides this interview led to the search at RA's house. So the paperwork for the license to carry a handgun was likely already through the process and simply slipped through that way. The fingerprinting and background check was done well in advance of it getting issued. Kind of coincidental, but not impossible at all. I don't understand. I thought he owned that gun for years.
Sorry, I was on mute. So the
Didn't he
paperwork.
own it in 2006 is when he bought that gun or something? So what does his license to carry?
Background checking doesn't advance getting issued. So the paperwork for the license to carry a gun was likely already through the process and simply simped through that way. Well, yeah, I mean, because he had that gun for a long time.
Yeah,
The printing and
sorry,
background
that just
was done well in advance of getting it issued. Kind of coincidental, but not impossible. I'm not really understanding that sentence, to be honest with you.
yeah, it's
The license to carry a gun was likely already, unless he's honestly, again, one of those ones you'd have to kind of go back. Well, that's May 10th. I'm afraid to hit this because last time I did, it shows me the topic, but then it took me out of it. And then I was pissed because then I had to keep scrolling all the way back down again. So I'm just going to leave that one. Just going to leave that one.
You haven't seen that. You've seen the PCA for the arrest, but one of the biggest things we haven't seen is the RA search warrant and what they said to get it. Fair enough. So it could have not triggered anything since it wasn't issued. So they didn't know he was applying for it, but it was through the part where they run the checks. Then it was with the person signing off who was just signing off at that point and not doing an additional check as that has been done already. It's definitely a hole that could have been covered with a more streamlined process, but the government isn't exactly known for efficiency. Again, this is about the gun and the license to carry. So I don't know how that. Okay. This is from the Abby and Libby sub. I see Rick clear as day in that video. And somebody says, yeah, nope, no clue. I don't think the times from the family mean much since it is just their memory combined with what they remember from phone calls. I would say that the sister heading to work dropped the girls rather quickly, so with the location of both camera, all of that easily could have happened inside of a minute. I think the timeline of it all adds up pretty well. I'm saying they may have the time of the call, but how the exact overlays, well, I'm saying they may have the time of the call, but how that exactly overlays their tip to the trail might be faulty memory. I've heard them throw out times that weren't accurate in other instances, at least one other. If this was my child, I would push for the death penalty as much as possible. I don't see how this is anything other than the exact reason the punishment exists. I agree with this. His statement was accurate until then I left. He went and sat on the bench, waiting, watching, then 2 potential witnesses passed. He sat there debating and waiting for them to cross. Then he made his move and crossed that bridge with purpose. You can kind of see him starting to cross over in the clip they did release as he closed the distance directly at them. I read the PCA and get a full picture of the situation. I don't see all the questions raised. I think we all have them, but mine were not raised by the PCA. Moscow, 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 Moscow. I think most people miss how important this is. He regretted snitching on himself and rolled the dice that if he didn't come back forward, that he might slip through the cracks. He almost lucked out and will forever know that had he not called his presence in, that he would likely have gotten away with this. Well, he would have, but something went wrong. I'm told he spent a long time chatting once they realized this blunder. Really?
Yeah, I just finally caught up to where you were. I kind of lost you for a second there. Was that, well, he would have, but something went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait, I think most people miss how important it is. This is, he's getting snitching on himself and he rolled the dice. And if he didn't come back to that, he might slip through the cracks. He almost lucked out and will forever know that he had not called his presence and that he would have likely, got away with this. Yeah, absolutely, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. And then the next one says, where's your information or opinion coming from, alleging that Nick McClelland was incompetent? I don't remember reading that, but I mean, fair question. Then we go up quite a ways. I'm not going to say either had the opportunity to hear BG when they heard him in public, because I don't feel like that audio was obviously clean enough to know for sure. But I will say that I think it possibly that could have happened for someone, the right person that just hears it properly. I say this because I had a situation where I was threatened over the phone by someone I didn't know, but I was given their name. Then I was working my little high school job and I heard the voice that threatened me come out of one person standing right in front of me, and it gave me goosebumps. I had to ask their phone number, and then the name populated, confirming what my entire being had already told me. It was clear as day to me that I had only heard the voice once on the phone, very briefly, and then the minute I heard it in person, my spidey senses went nuts. And who is the actual killer? Moscow. Was that Delphi? Yeah, that was Delphi. Who is the actual killer? I thought he had made up his mind. Oh yeah, it was childish stuff over a girl. I offered them the time I got off work, and they just ran their mouth and left. Pretty typical teen nonsense from all of us, but ultimately harmless. I just never will forget the feeling of hearing that voice that was faceless to me come out of someone standing in front of me. Yeah, that would be something. But I mean, he was the pharmacy guy. How could the audio wasn't clear? So okay, moving on. What did not happen is a statement that should not be applied to something that definitely could have happened. One or both of the girls could have taken off in an escape attempt that resulted in that. He also could have just had a bad plan. Either way, I think upon crossing, they were swiftly killed as he would have realized his vision of how this crime would go was gone. I'm not opposed to him having forced them back across the trail and into the woods, that way either as it's possible, but I think the video, whether just sound or with images, will tell us that. There's plenty of time from the 2:13 p.m. time to him leaving for the crime to take place. That obviously depends on the evidence. That obviously depends on what the evidence shows happened at the scene. Also, physical evidence would conclusively show if they were killed where they were found, and going off of the statement alluding to that from LE, I think it's safer to assume that they were killed where found. I didn't see anything in the bullet points that contradicted anything stated or known so far.
So did he forget to read the Ron Logan search warrant? Because it was clear in that one that, and because of what we know now, obviously, like the F tree, and blood and stuff like that. So obviously, I think he's forgetting about what was said about being moved, and
But he could have been. I mean, some of the comments before that was, I mean, I don't know, but it kind of made it seem like he was talking to somebody who thought that they were killed elsewhere and then taken across the creek. You know how there's that school of thought that they were moved kind of a greater distance, or from a shack or whatever to where they were found. I don't think that from one tree to another tree might not have been what he was referring to when he said moved. That to me, like I don't know, but that's how I took it.
And very well could be. Like, not gonna lie, my brain's a bit tired right now. I probably should have stayed in bed for a few more hours, for sure. So if I missed something there, because I mean, obviously we've heard that. But anyways, that's Moscow, that one. Well, bottom line is, at the end of the day, we know that the girls were killed in one spot, in a sense, near other trees. Those don't depict.
But still in the same area, they weren't.
Still in the same area. Yeah. I know, because it always bugged me when that psychic lady said that Jerry Holman, or was it Holcomb? I always forget because they're so similar. Had like, it was so strange because, like I said, so this lady has a friend who's an Indiana LE, right? This friend reaches out to her from the LE that they haven't talked to in about 15 years, she says, and asks if she wants to have dinner, right? So she meets her up for dinner. Me and the psychic lady meets up her friend from 15 years and has dinner, and they end up talking about the Delphi case. And the psychic lady says a few things that really caught her friend from 15 years ago off guard by some of the comments that she had made, say, with her psychic abilities. So that lady, LE officer, says, hey, look, like, I know the lead investigator in that case, so would you mind if I, see if he, you can talk to him or whatever. So for about a week, who was the lead investigator? Was it Holcomb or Holm? No, Holcomb, right? It had to be Holcomb. I don't know. Holcomb, I think.
No, it was Holman. The lead investigator was Holman.
Okay. I always get the two mixed up all the time. But anyways, so she never meets him in person, but he talks to her for a week. And one of the things that they asked her, what she said to me was two of the main things that they asked her was how the girls' how the girls' bodies were moved. And the other thing is that which way did the person or persons leave, the crime scene? How did they kind of come in and out? Because she said it seemed like they mostly wanted to know about how they left or the person or person left, but it always stuck in my head about that. And so I remember when Deb and Adam were like, well, like it could have just been a couple feet away. And I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like, why, if they were moved a couple feet away, like I'm pretty sure any freaking idiot can figure that out, right? Like drag marks, whatever. Like, you think that they would know that. So I was saying, like, no, that doesn't make sense. Why would they specifically ask her how they were moved? Because then that would seem like it was a greater distance, like let's say that they were pulling out of the water. Well, little 5'4" gnome there, how could he pull out, like, say, Libby out of the water, type of idea. So to me, it was either further away, because why, to me, would they ask her this question? So, but now we seem to know that it really was only a few feet away is where they were killed versus where they were placed. But it always seems strange to me, like, why they would ask her that unless it meant something more significant,
Yeah.
But according to what we're seeing, though, is that there's the F tree, there's blood splatter, colon F, whatever you want to call it, which is near the crime scene. But where they were killed was not where they were or they were placed in a different spot. They were moved and staged. Simple as that. Moved and posed, or however you want to call it. But
The
yeah,
staging, I think, is referring to the sticks.
the
Myself.
sticks is staging, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then posing, obviously, of the bodies. But yeah.
Does it say moved and staged and posed? I think it just says moved.
No, it just says moved and
staged. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people that think that they were posed in some grotesque manner, they weren't. I mean, it was just the sticks, in my opinion.
Well, they weren't posed. I mean, knowing that, I've seen the crime scene photos, but it's still strange, in a sense, like, yeah, Libby could have been dragged with the one arm for sure, or it could have been purposely placed like that, who knows? It seems more of a dragging thing, but
Yeah.
don't know for sure. And, with Abby's leg being underneath her brother, like, it's not some weird, like, it's not like what I would seem out of the realm ridiculous type of, posing of the bodies, or I always get the words mixed up, Alexa. I'm sorry if she said she's gone. So, what do you call that again when they move the body around a little bit? Like, is that posing?
Posing.
Posing the body?
Mm-hmm.
But
posing the body is usually for like shock value for whoever finds them. And I'm not thinking of this case. I'm thinking of other crimes that I'm aware of.
Like, I wouldn't call
posing is usually very dramatic and
this one wasn't
purposeful,
dramatic.
and it wasn't. No,
this one, I wouldn't call this dramatic at all. No. Yeah.
Yes, sweet dude, Shibby. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Posing is fantasy, staging is misdirection. Yeah. And when you're posing a body, is usually for a purpose, right? It means something to the person doing the posing.
So do we call this one staging then?
Misdirection. I would definitely lean towards misdirection for sure, rather than living out some fantasy with sticks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. I think that my own personal opinion is, based upon the photos that we see, which is, it's not a lot. If people haven't seen them, it's, like, it's not like you have this whole crime scene area that you can look at. It's literally one's of Abby. No, 3 are of Abby. 1 is of Libby. Two of the Abby ones are just like a head shot and a leg shot, like her leg underneath her other leg. And the other one is basically her forehead upwards, where you don't see any freaking horns, or antlers. And then, you know, obviously it's like a single picture of Abby, single picture of Libby, and then the other two are of Abby. But like I said, one with the bent knee, close up, like really close up, and then of the head, and same like from the uh, what do I want to call it? My forehead upwards of there. So there's no big crime scene. Like you're not seeing no F tree in that picture, or anything like that, and stuff like that. So that's just to give you hopefully a better visual of what those photos are about if you don't know.
And I'd like to say, I mean, has anybody ever taken any kind of first aid training or rescue training or anything like that?
Mhm.
The proper, like if so, I teach how to rescue people from worksite incidents, I guess you can say. So there's proper dragging techniques, and I'm pretty sure like it's standard across the board. This is how you safely move someone, but it could be part of his training. Like he was in the what are they called, the reserves or whatever. I mean, he could have learned some kind of dragging technique because when you're doing this, you're going either under the armpits or by the cuff of the shirt that they're wearing. But
Mhm.
I'm just saying. And then I don't know if you've ever tried to redress somebody that is incapacitated or drunk or something like that, where you're kind of manhandling them to try to get a shirt or something. Because I've had drunk boyfriends and friends where I'm trying to get their shoes on or whatever, and it's extremely difficult when they're not helping.
Yeah, when they're not
Um,
helping, like it's like yeah,
right? So I mean, to me, the posing isn't there. That could have just been happenstance how it ended up after he had finished doing what he was doing. Do you know what I mean? And then the sticks were part of the staging. The sticks were the staging, I should
yeah.
say. That's what makes the most sense to me. But I don't know.
What do you make of Abby's arms? Like it's almost like so. Let's say she was being dragged, and you know she's still alive at this point, because remember, if we believe that hers was a slower death and stuff, what do you make of
So
um
when you drag when you're doing a rescue operation and you drag somebody, you're folding their arms just like that and putting
right,
your arms in a barrel kind of hug underneath to get
yeah,
leverage to lift and pull back. Do you
right,
know what I mean? And
yeah,
so if the sweater was already on her when that happened, then that's just kind of how it landed when he laid her back down. And then putting the jeans on, like I said, could have just been happenstance, just how difficult it is to. And I feel like this is so, um, you know, I don't mean any disrespect, but when somebody's not cooperating and you're trying to redress somebody who's
right.
incapacitated, her leg could have just been bent that way
It could have been, yeah, but it
as
is.
he was.
But her hands being, Abby's hands being within the sweatshirt of the one that Libby had on, like meaning the fact that they were. You guys know when you get cold and you throw your hands back into your shirt, and then you kind of can't see it because you're cold, and you know, and
But that could have just been, his. He for whatever reason he decided to put that sweater on Abby. I don't think it was to make her look presentable or anything like that. I think that he got the arms through, and that's as far as it went. And I
yeah,
don't
and
know
maybe
if anybody knows about rigor. Your everything stiffens up, so maybe her fists kind of stiffened up without, because the sweater was too big for her. Maybe her hands didn't go all the way through, and he didn't care to do it.
and he
He
didn't
didn't
care to
care to
do it.
put it on the way. And her naturally, what happens when our hearts start beating, our muscles start to stiffen up, and her like
Yeah.
fists
Well,
usually form.
and tonight we can talk with Alexa about this as well. You know,
Yeah,
like hearing her thoughts on it for sure. Okay. Not sure where we ended off here. I think we're June 8th. So we're kind of coming close to the end of this soon. But we're on June 8th. You
mm.
don't have the DNA. Okay, go ahead.
You don't have to have DNA or video evidence to find someone guilty. Sometimes placing yourself at the crime scene, having witnesses corroborate that, and also confirm the lack of other people at that particular time, and then, oh yeah, there's a bullet at the scene that matches a gun of yours, all combined could be enough. We will see what else there is, and we will see what the jury buys if it gets there. Ejection marks under a microscope for a round not fired are still there and can still be inferiors and linked. The certainty of specifying the exact weapon will be the debate. That's right, because like I keep saying, the gun, when they used to be handmade by the same person, yeah, you could say that this would have the exact same marks or wouldn't have the exact same marks. It would be individual to each gun. But now that they're mass produced and they're done by machine, yeah, there's going to be ones with the very same markings for sure, but thousands of them are probably pumped out a day. Like, I don't know how many, but now that they're mass produced, I think it would be a lot harder to say it was unique to that gun if they're all going through the same machine when being manufactured. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how they could prove without a doubt that that is a bullet that was chambered through that specific gun, just because of the mass production of this stuff nowadays, if that makes sense to anybody. And I
What?
could be talking out of my ass here. I have no idea, but that's
Well,
just my brain.
but that's what I think. Wasn't Fortson saying though? Like, look, like, okay, like I have a P226, but it's not like this really common gun that everyone has, and especially a 40 caliber one. So he was really saying like, so yeah, it's probably mass produced, but it's not like a common type one that everyone has.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what he was saying earlier on there, that, it's not more common thing. It's not as common as one would think, is what he said.
No, for sure. But I mean, who knows what to believe, but there have been other people that have come out from the area that says, I have that same gun. So maybe, I don't know if it was the same caliber, but I've seen people say that they have that same gun. And I don't know if they're telling the truth or just saying it to throw
Yeah.
shade or doubt on the prosecution. Do you know what I mean? Like, who knows? Who knows? Anyways, so we will know more eventually about what Alan said.
Yeah.
He talked a lot. We have heard little of that. It'll get released at some point, I'm sure, but I just don't see any way that he didn't see the girls. He tells the
Right.
truth all the way until he can't anymore. If he admits to seeing them, then he knows he will self-snitch. He lies after the part where he sits on a bench. Do you have statements from these witnesses about this man? I haven't seen those statements. Ballistics will be presented with microscopic images. Experts will testify both ways and the jury will decide. I do not think ballistics is hogwash, and neither do many others. I do understand that there is a lot of lobbying to say otherwise, but people do that for many things. Moscow. You said you doubted it. You said you doubted if he knew what an appellate court is. That implies incompetence, I think. Must be talking about RA. What makes you think there were no signs of doing so? Crossing the creek and going up the banks? I'm not 100%. They didn't cross back and go that way. But I do know that someone knows for sure based on video, audio, and it is more likely than not they did in fact cross the creek. However, I'll wait and see which route RA took them. I've heard a few things that I would say are evidence of them crossing it. And he says, okay, that is who I responded to originally. This isn't exactly true. If they took the non-creek route, they could have still had to go down the hill, as that all slopes back there. It wouldn't be the ramp as described from the other side, but that phrase could still apply. However, I think this is all moot, as I think they went down the hill where originally thought and crossed the creek before being killed where they were found. I think the other ideas is an attempt at misinformation. Crossing the creek is definitely possible in this crime, and any insinuation otherwise comes off as someone with an agenda.
There's that word moot. Moot.
Moot.
Moot.
You saw the tape of the witness that said they saw someone muddy and bloody. Case is ongoing and the evidence was allowed back in. What? Then there's a link here. I don't want to click it. You want to click it? I
No,
don't wanna
there's no point because it's not there.
oh, okay. He did not. He was hit with more charges and the gun was allowed back. But there's still more happening with that process, although it is currently allowed. Caden Smith needs to be off the streets, though, so good job to law enforcement for catching him doing other criminal activities in the meantime. This is not about, all right. And then June 14th, 2023, he said not the Indiana Supreme Court, though, so I don't know what that was about. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just someone looking at these bullet casings. The difference between you and I looking at these casings is very different. We don't all have the same experience in handling, inspecting ammunition. Then you throw in the benefit of a microscope to get an even closer look, and it's really different. I've heard all the people weighing in on this too, read opinions and all of that. It still comes down to the jury choosing who they think is correct. Many of the individuals that claim you can't tell the difference are people with an agenda, whether they are in criminal defense or just sympathetic to a cause. The same could likely be said for those stating this is an infallible process. The jury will hear it and decide. This is not going to be a cut and dry situation, and those hoping it is are better off hoping that they can get the whole search thrown out on a technicality than rely on this getting tossed. The Indiana Supreme Court has set precedents here. I'd just like to say I don't have an agenda, and I think bullet evidence is weak. Just throwing that in there, which I have absolutely no training or there are studies that show accuracy here, and there are people that dispute those studies. It's like almost anything where two groups have opposing agendas and both groups find what they want to find. The fact remains that the Indiana Supreme Court has ruled on this, and the evidence will be allowed, in my opinion. See the link from Indiana State Supreme Court, and you'll have a legal opinion on this topic that will impact this case. I don't need to change the subject. We are discussing this court case, and my link is relevant to that and the OP. I said time and time again that this will be up to the jury to believe who they want. I think a true expert can use tool markings on a casing to determine the match. That is the opinion of the Indiana Supreme Court as well. We shall see how the jury decides. I would say you are in denial of legal precedent in Indiana. If anyone can overcome that hurdle, it is Andy Baldwin or Brad Rosie, but I think they will have to do it at trial. I'm talking about whether getting this evidence tossed is going to happen, and the best indicator of that is what I cited. I also have acknowledged that it could be beat in trial. I'm strictly talking about whether it will be successfully tossed. Now, a chain of custody issue could be different, but that study won't be why it gets tossed, in my opinion. It may be why it gets disregarded at trial, though. I'll give you that. Moscow. I do, and that has been my point. The jury will ultimately decide. It wouldn't hurt, but whatever you need to tell yourself to feel good. It's a little salty. You love flat earth. I think you might be a flat earth believer. This is pretty salty, salt shaker. That is why they have trials, to show the jury the evidence. I do know that Rick spoke to ST Link with investigators. Okay. I do know that Rick spoke at length with investigators during the interview process, and we have only been giving a few quotes from that. He talked a lot. I own this weapon in a different caliber. It was first manufactured in 1984 to 85 and is definitely in the family of modern firearm. The popularity comes from the efforts of SIG in getting the replacement contract for the 1911, which ultimately went to Beretta, giving us the M9 service weapon. SIG was a popular choice of the Navy SEALs, however, as they had the ability to deviate from what the rest of the military was doing, and then write a book to tell you about it. So the public liked that idea of using the same weapon system that they were using. It is a big and heavy weapon by today's standards, but it does perform well. That weapon in that caliber being owned by someone on the trail that day is extremely hard to explain. Now, you don't do a good job demonstrating the issues with the reliability of the tool marking analysis versus what the state does, or you present evidence that shows the bullet didn't necessarily come from that type of weapon, and you have a chance. I do think that him having that weapon that uses the same ammo as what was found at the scene and him being on the trail at the time of the murder is tough to get past. It'll be worse if he has ammo that is by the same manufacturer still at his house, or if his long talk led to giving other statements that they can use to box him in.
Agreed on there. Do you want me to read for a little?
Yeah, I'd love it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. You just have to say, because I just,
I just get going. I just get going reading, and then my voice starts to crack.
Yeah. Okay. And I agree, Heather. It's about the totality. But if that evidence isn't allowed or get tossed out, then it won't matter for that part then. What actual evidence points away from him? I just don't understand why people are so ready to say this guy is innocent due to there is not being a video of him committing the crime, but will jump through flaming spike tubes to present someone as a suspect that Ali certainly spent a lot of time getting their story. It's bizarre, but we live in a time where being contrarian is how people claim their virtue. This is very true, and I've heard nothing other than two sides have gotten along on a personal and professional level. I've not heard one reliable hint of animosity between prosecution and defense on this case. I've only heard positive, and respect is there. I've heard some of the stunning things about Westville Prison that relate to this case, but have not heard it discussed publicly. Once that stuff is out, then I think that is stunning. Kind of says something there, doesn't it? Not sure not sure what that would be, what they are alluding to, but that place has some reckoning on its way in relation to this case, if you ask me. I think I kind of believe that you do know. It's not just not sure what that could be. I don't believe that. I think at least a phone call to the family could be at play. We'll see.
What?
Well, I mean, it's like, well, I'm not sure what that could be alluding to, but then the next sentence is, I think it's at least a phone call to the family to be at play. Is it full and detailed admission or indirect? We will see. Wife on phone. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Question mark. Like he doesn't know or something.
I just noticed that that last post came from the Delphi Knot.
Oh,
subreddit.
right. Yeah, the Delphi. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm not into. I try not to get it because I get stuck. But I try not to get into that. But isn't that what people are talking about now? Like these
Right.
people that are holding the rally and stuff. Isn't that supposedly this Delphi Knot?
Right. They're talking about the R&M channel, that Angela
Okay.
Delphi. That's part of like that. Their whatever is the Delphi knot as well, and stuff like that. But anyway, so you can see right here. Well, when did we hear about the wife on the phone? Because this is June 15th.
Yeah, we didn't hear about that until I can't remember, but it was a hearing right around.
Yeah, I don't remember
July?
the date. Do any of you guys remember when that was? The
phone call itself, I think, was in April, right? Because that was in the memo.
But when it, let's see here. Let me just
April 3rd or April 5th that phone conversation happened, and then he got all weird after that. He broke his tablet and stuff, and that happened in April, but I don't know when we found out about it.
Wife slams phone down. That was 4 months ago. They're saying Richard Allen confessed to his wife no less than 5 times to his wife and his mother, and that's July 4th. June 28th, Delphi documents. Richard Allen told wife Okay, so it's around the end of June. It's June 28th, right around that area. That's when the news is all bringing it up. So
I
it
think
has,
he knew about it before the hearing, because
yeah,
otherwise all of this would have been about that phone call, because that was huge. And I
well,
bet you that's exactly what's going to happen.
yeah, and that's exactly why this is. He's like, I've heard some stunning things about Westville Prison that relate, and then he says, not sure what that would be alluding to, though. Shut that F up at that moment, right? Because it says, I think at least a phone call to a family could be at play. It is a full and detailed admission or indirect. We will see.
Yeah,
And
looking
then
back, it's
wife on
clear
the
he knew.
phone, right? And this is around the area, like, to me, this is really the area where he kind of like totally gives himself up in a sense by these little things, kind of like the whole Whiteman thing or whatever. Anyways, I don't know the setup at Westville because it's a dump, but I know some newer facilities. Here, sorry, get off there. Um, this is where we are right here. But I know some newer facilities or those with retrofitted systems allow guards to listen in on jail cells to some extent. That would be hearsay. Oh, did you pop out for a sec, Charmaine? I think you popped out for a sec.
I did, but I'm back. I'm here.
Okay. Okay. So let's see here. We should know. So, anyways, that would be hearsay unless recorded, but it could still fit. Would be we should know soon. Um, they need to immediately move him. It's outrageous, and there is no excuses for it being at Westville of all places. Here, sorry, I should highlight that properly. Has a lot of issues, had horrible issues during the sea madness, and tons of general issues with treatment of prisoners to not keeping up the care and maintenance of the facility. Keeping him there is hurting his health, the defense, and the prosecution, and the ability to get a clean conviction. I think he is guilty and not someone that typically has a bleeding heart for inmates, but this man is not convicted yet. He is innocent for now and shouldn't be subjected to unprecedented treatment there. They are making it easy for a defense team like this. Thankfully, Rick is making it hard. And get the man moved where they want him and get your prosecution. Nobody is going to be negatively impacted by getting him into a safe place locally until he is tried. The victims risk losing justice if you don't. Could be all out for holding someone pre-trial at Westville is unheard of, and then they need to get him moved so that they can prosecute him with nothing preventing it from sticking. Clearly, Westville isn't working for anyone. This should be an easy one. Well, it's not. There are so much worse things that are being talked about, not in the public forum that may be going on. Moving him won't hurt anyone and will allow the process to proceed in a cleaner manner. He won't have any excuses for issues then. Not exactly what I'm referring to. I know at least of the newer jail that can listen into the cells from the guard station. The inmates like to put paper over whatever it is in the cell, but it gets taken down during searches. I do not work there, but that has been a straight from a guard that he can sit and listen into his cell if he wants. I highly doubt a hole like Westville is equipped to be equipped like this, but you never know. Let's see here. That isn't true as they currently have Koberger in jail, solitary, but comfortable with his television access to key tabs on his case. These guys are not convicted, and although I think both are guilty and should not receive the death penalty if convicted, you can't ignore their rights, and it is better in the best interest of all to make sure that they are safe and have and treated fair pre-trial. I bet you we can find a jail in the general vicinity that can make it happen. Did we read this yesterday? I feel like we read that for some, unless I read it myself. I'm having deja vu. It happens to the defense approval. Obviously, Westville isn't it and doesn't even make sense as it is not remotely close to the court. I'm not sure what they need that people have or I'm not sure what the need that people have for Westville, but I would suggest working with the defense on this, especially after video. So who's he saying that to? I'm not sure what people need, but for Westville, but I would suggest working with the defense on this, especially after video recording talk, and there are more tidbits that have come out yet from my understanding. What I'm not seeing anywhere is the discussion of admission that they were supposed to come back to after the break. What happened to that?
Right. So that,
Okay,
right. So that's what happened at that hearing.
at
Remember?
that hearing.
They were supposed to discuss it after their break and they never did.
Right. I think he snitched on himself in an indirect way, but subconsciously he wants this over with, and he knows when he is being recorded, likely told someone some stuff too. The defense is going to throw everything that they are getting him off something, and that if it all fails, look for Nick McClelland to give them an out. What happened to the witnesses? It seems like that never happened after the break. He absolutely is being treated differently than most who are accused. Westville has no history performing this role, and it shows. I feel like we read this yesterday. I know a few that have served this time as bad. I wasn't sure if the technology could be retrofitted, and it was even more uncertain after hearing they recorded him and his lawyers present. I guess they don't have enough tech though. I think we're gonna stop there because I feel like we actually read this stuff yesterday. Um, on there, like I want to go through some things tonight with Alexa. Oh hey Travis.
Did you guys get right to the, like, when was his last post?
The 5th
Of
uh,
September?
October. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You were here yesterday.
I was, Sunny, I was cold medicated up and I was in and out of consciousness.
Oh,
I
okay.
did my best, but it wasn't good.
On there. Let's see. Okay. So I'll read this one in. Will likely hold up, but much like differing experts on tool mark analysts, it will come down to what the jury believes from what the people have been told. Also, the recordings of his confession could play very damaging or show he was clearly compromised mentally. It could also demonstrate the extent of the confession, like if it is detailed, it is specific. If it is just some kind of indirect statement that they took as a confession. This was a huge moment, and I'm hoping it is clear and specific confession and not something like, I don't know, maybe I did do it, but he's just beat down. Both are bad, but one is a little bit more easier to attempt to deal with for the defense attorneys. Agreed. If he is truly admitting things because of losing his mind, then he would be mentioning these other people and grand conspiracies that the YouTube comments are insinuating happened, but there is no mention of others. It's what many of us have said from the jump. This guy did it alone. He broke a few times in his attempt to maintain his innocence. The guy knows of the theories that are out there and his moments of weakness. He has admitted he did it, not that others did it. And this one says, just a point of clarification. The prison is Westville and is located way up north near the border near Lake Michigan. Westfield is a rapidly growing city in Hamilton County, just north of Indianapolis and Carmel, as well as west of Noblesville, Fishers, and south of Delphi. There's no connection to Westfield or the Hamilton County Jail. Okay, whatever for that. I don't know. Is there any comment that you wanted to, that you saw?
No.
No, I think
I went and I read ahead because I missed last night. I was curious what his last post was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the right statement. What does it say? I don't think that the statement to the wife is going to be some bombshell, but letters and other statements could be like you said. We won't know until they come to court. My personal take is the defense will try to discredit the statements in the open court because they know enough to know that they won't be suppressed. What does this one say? It wasn't even Tobe that went to visit. It was Tony Liggett who tried to visit him, and the nature of that is unknown at the time, so it was all speculation, but it was really bad look either way for Liggett. The idea that he attempted to do this and then didn't show either that someone at Westville saved him from himself, or that he went up there for a reason he isn't being forthcoming about, for some reason we don't know. Definitely on like a lot of things out there. Um yeah, I'm tired now, to be honest with you. We're at a 3.5 hour mark, and we'll be going live again tonight with Alexa, our criminal profiler. Here, let me uh, probably, I guess, come back, on screen here a bit. Yeah, so tonight, anyways, thank you guys for all that came in here. And again, please give a like and a share if you don't mind tonight. I'm not sure if Charmaine will make it, see how she's feeling, but criminal profiler Alexa will be joining us, and she'll be giving us her take on some of the things that she had said versus some of the things that Fortson had talked about in here, and go over some of those statements where you can tell that he had the knowledge from Mitch Westerman, making comments prior to the memorandum coming out and stuff like that. So the live will be at the typical time, Shelley, 7 o'clock PST and 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Adam really can't do it. So always, typically our lives are always at that time. You'll know the difference, when I do something, but it's always for that time, because Adam typically can't make it before then, for the Eastern Standard Time. So that's why it's, always at 7 o'clock PST, 10 Eastern. Okay. Other than that, I don't know. Sorry, we couldn't, when we're on a different page in order to read this, you can't really see chat. So sometimes when Charmaine was, reading, I would come out to chat and see, and kind of take a look at what people are saying. Was there a surge of outrage and support centered around the request to move, and or about the same before and after the safekeeping motion? Interested in everyone's opinions and observations on that one.
I think that the biggest, the outrage really truly started was when they released the picture of Rick Allen looking emaciated, and I think that came with a letter or something, or with that when they asked to move him or whatever, but they also had the picture released somehow. So
yeah, I mean, to me, I'm sorry, but to me, that was just acting 101. Of course, he was a lot frailer and weaker and stuff. Anyone taken from regular life and stuck into a freaking prison cell and stuff like that, you're gonna start, you're literally, you're not being able to eat, drink, smoke, and all those things that you normally do. And it isn't giving that you're in a state of shock or whatever, and you're,
they say stress kills, and
yeah.
I heard he was a pretty heavy drinker, so you take that away, and
smoker, drinker, so type of thing. And it's not like unless you got money on the commissary or stuff like that, it's not like a free for all, like, I'll just go in the fridge right now, excuse me, guards, mind letting me in so I can get some Jello,
but having said that, I mean, at the same time, when you're not eating right and you're not sleeping well, that can induce psychosis, and
of course,
you know what I mean. So I mean, both sides could be true.
But did they play him up? Absolutely. To me, absolutely, they played him up. Oh, I'm so frail, and here's my hands, like I'm like this. I believe that they played him up. That's what they're there to do. To me, I don't fall for that crap when someone's trying to sit there and portray this image. Obviously, yes, he's weaker, but it's kind of like that picture, like, let's go for the shot, type of idea. And the bottom line is it runs in line with the whole Odinism thing, right? Their job is to get him off. Simple as that. Portray that he's, that Westville, and whatever. We don't know Westville besides people talking about it, and it probably is a shithole. Like probably a lot of prisons out there, to be honest with you, and stuff like that. But for me, that to me was a whole, show for media, and stuff like that. And we just got to get him moved. And like you can tell, the Judge Gull is like, okay, like, can you stop bringing it up now? He's not. You guys can move him around. You chose not to in the correctional whatever. So he ended up just staying there. Sorry, I don't feel so sad in a sense I don't think that what they were trying to play versus more of the truth. I think that there's definitely a play up of what they were trying to achieve for
And
Richard.
sweet dude, Shimmy, I mean, I don't, Sunny and I don't agree on everything, and this is one of them. I do not think that that picture was acting or anything like that, but I also, I'm on the fence to whether or not it was situational, rather than, you know, I don't even know how to put the other side of it. I think that he was really suffering. He was going through a lot, as would anybody else. And I think I think his appearance probably caught his attorneys off guard, and they took a picture of him and
Yeah.
they embellished some of the circumstances. Absolutely. I believe that, but I don't subscribe to that. Sunny, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know you don't, but I absolutely do. So it's not about not having a heart. It's
Yeah.
a matter of that, like it's not just me that has said that, but that's what I believe. I believe that they definitely that the guy was having problems, and stuff like that. I feel this whole time that they appropriately placed him in a place that they felt was good. Am I wrong or right? Are you wrong or right? None of us can say unless you sit there and go to Westville yourself, and you're in the solitary confinement. But he was arrested for a reason. It was because there was a bullet there. He placed himself on the bridge and whatever. And maybe some people think that he shouldn't be in that prison instead of jail, but that's not for us to decide. That was for the Judge Gall to decide. Multiple times they tried to say that he had mental health issues. Then they came and said, no, there's no mental health issues going on. He doesn't need medication for that. He's fine where he is. And that's hence why Judge Gall is like, okay, like basically, can you stop bringing this up now? Like we keep, you keep trying to get him out of there. But the
I
thing
think
is,
it's got more to do with his, they're crying that he's got mental health issues. Well, that's the best place for him there. And also,
but he
there's
doesn't.
no place that he's going to be any safer. You know what I mean? So I
I,
think that's the reasoning behind her.
you know what the thing is that, and no offense, sweet dude, because this is all about having your own opinion. I just think that it's one of those things. I've never been to Westville. Sweet dude's never been to Westville. We don't know exactly what's going on, but of course, it's kind of like the Odin scenario. If they're going to put forth all of this, then all of a sudden all the bleeding hearts come out. And I'm a bleeding heart to a point for sure, absolutely. But I don't feel in this case. And like you even hear the lawyer, I think it was that was talking about this shirt. You're going to wear your dirtiest shirt because you're going to betray to the public. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to that for myself. Just like sweet dude, if you think that that's heartless or whatever, absolutely your opinion. Charmaine's saying, Sonny, I disagree with you, and that's perfectly fine. They had a chance to move him around in a different facility. They chose not to. And I feel myself that Richard Allen was put in the safest place for his needs. But, I guess it's one of those things. This is where I kind of go, well, let's say Richard Allen, like, okay, I want to go to Cass County, and the judge is saying no, because she thinks she's doing it for his own good and stuff like that. So, but then again, she said, no, well, you can't have these lawyers, even though we're still going through that process on there. So I just wonder, like, so if the client, like, because of the fact that normally people get put in jail and not in prison, type of idea, right? So part of me has always wondered, well, doesn't he have a right to go to Cass County jail if he wants to, because typically that's where somebody goes is to the
Isn't
county
this
jail.
the sheriff is the one that applied for the safekeeping order before Rick had any kind of representation, and I think that that's an important piece that people don't talk about as much. This really had nothing to do with the defense. When the defense came on, that's when they started saying he shouldn't be at Westville. We need to move him, but he had been kept safe, and then by then all of his mental health concerns were being raised, and
But he was deemed as fine. That's the thing, that he wasn't deemed as having any mental health issues.
but
But
that was after the fact because he was able to be assessed like many times
right, yeah, yeah,
after that.
yeah. I mean,
At this point, I think that there's too, and I don't want to use the word bias on the judge's part. I think that she's just over dealing with all these little issues that she thinks the defense are kind of cherry picking. So I don't think that she's in the right for some of this stuff. I don't, but like I said, I don't know. But I think that we forget the timeline, which is why I was telling you, Sonny, we need to go back to day one and reminisce and do the journey again so we can
No,
understand how we got here.
I
And I
ain't doing
know
I
you're
ain't
like
doing
me.
that journey again. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not. It's too, like, I don't mind talking surface stuff. That this case has been draining enough. I put too much of my life into this case to, I don't mind going back to some important things that were talked about, but it, to me, it's like this has been like there's so much muck everywhere, and the truth is usually near the beginning of it, like the start of it, in a sense, for sure, when people were talking. But it's such, I don't have the capacity to want to dive that deep into it, or go too far back, because I'm mentally drained by this case.
Hmm.
And it's kind of, for me, it's like I'm
And I
just,
keep saying, like, the grass is too long to see the poop. It's way too long now. We can't.
now it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, near in the first area of say 2017, when it happened, and all the things that were happening around there, and the posts from people, like a lot of those, the only people that have a lot of that stuff is the people like Brenda's of the world, who disses of the world, that have a lot of that information. Because Ashley Garth, at some point, like when it came to that, her Facebook was taken down. Garrett Kurt, certain things with Nicole Bowen and everything was taken down. So I don't have that wealth of information like some of the people that have been following the case for a long time, because some of this stuff's been long gone, that you can't find anymore. And it's just like picking through all these little things, and you come across, oh shit, there's that avenue, and stuff like that. For me, it's like, okay, Dave Erskine, he was talking, he put out some tests, that's part of Abby's family, stuff like that. My brain hurts the minute you even mention going back to the start. I'm just like, oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's
But some
minor,
of those press conferences, like when Doug Carter said, we may have already interviewed you, or you may be in this, who may be in this room right now, just little things like that, that I think that we forget. And I don't know, this other creator went through some of it, and it took me back to what it was like back then when we were looking into Delphi, and it was a completely different monster, but it still helped me.
the thing is, for me, it's not gonna solve the case. It's not
No.
going to give us any answers really to Richard Allen. We might go, oh yeah, I forget that was done or this was said and stuff. But for me, it's just kind of like, it's like, for me with Delphi, I just want to keep moving forward with it. And if there's things that are said that we forget about, or going back to the Ron Logan PCA here, or the search warrant, and things that were said because people are talking about it, and it's kind of like, brings clarity back to a point that was made in the memorandum and stuff like that. That's me now, because I drained myself of all my rabbit holes and stuff, and I've seen those interviews so many times. And yeah, we forget things, but I really just don't want to take it back to the thing, because none of it's going to say anything about Richard Allen, besides maybe that Chan 4 comment about Richard on the Chan 4, when they said that Richard, the guy's name was Richard, that was the BG. That was interesting, that was said.
Yeah.
But I don't think, for me personally, going back, I'm just looking for the process and anything that might attach Richard Allen in some way, but I know it's not there. Like, that's my thoughts on
Well,
it.
if it was there, he would have been arrested sooner if it was there and they knew. But
Isn't it crazy though? Like, seriously though, isn't it crazy that all these names on a list, all this blaming this person, blaming that person, this 90-page list, and Noam there was sitting in frickin' CVS, and he lived what, half a mile from the crime scene, and
yeah.
all that time, and hence why they were coming back out with that interview, or like the 2019, like now that you look at hindsight, you can basically see that this person, this one person that was there. So whoever can tell us who was at the CVS, da 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 da. It's because they frickin' Dan Doolin shit there, you know. Like I said, they lost the file and whatever, because that's who
Yeah.
they were wanting to come forward again. Is that how you took that? Now that you look in hindsight, that they were.
No, I took it as like he took the tip and he put it away and that was the end of it and he's a dipshit. That's how I took it.
So you don't think at any point somebody else knew that he admitted like that? You don't think Dan Doolin said it to anybody at all, and or that he just totally fucked up and like? But it doesn't make sense that they would hold the press conference asking for someone to come forward from the CVS if dipshit Dan, unless he has amnesia, he would remember that this person that he talked to that he can't find the file anymore on had said that he was at the CVS building. Or
That's what I'm saying. So that can go one of two ways. He either didn't follow up for whatever
Right.
stupid reason, or he did, and cops, actual cops, not fish cops,
Yeah.
didn't take him serious. I
Right.
mean, one of two ways, but either way, the blame lies there.
Well, it's the incompetence really that happened.
Mhm.
Like that's truly it. And they just kept shifting. Like they just kept honestly adding salt to the wounds, by double talking, saying that Doug Carter saying, like, what do you mean DNA? We never, oh, because that officer said it over there. You could see his face just was like he
Mhm.
was pissed that he had to answer that.
Well, they
You know,
forget what they've said because
yeah,
they're not saying, because they're spinning so much. And when you're not
yeah,
telling the full truth, then
yeah,
things can get mixed up, especially in your own mind when you're saying so
yeah.
little of so many, little tiny pieces of so many different things. That
Oh,
what's out there is going to get mixed up in your own brain.
and I think one of the biggest, this is where I was when I came into Delphi and where I was totally pissed off. It was because gum whacker there, Tobe Lesenby. No, I don't think there's anything to be concerned about. I think people should go about their daily, not the one that Kim Riley said, but when Tobe Lesenby was standing outside there in this interview. Nope. I don't think anyone should feel like they need to be worried, and as if they knew, right? Because that was the thing that you took away from that, was they knew, or they were on, the way to figuring out who this was. But for them to literally, they don't know who the killer was of these murders. No, you know what? No big deal. Just go on about your day. Nothing to see here, nothing to see. Because you felt like at that point when I watched that, I just felt like, okay, so obviously they know something and they're, but it's just a matter of putting the whatever together, da da da. Don't be worried. This was kind of like an isolated incident. No, it wasn't the case at all.
Yeah.
And they just sat there and lied to the community. Why?
Yeah.
So because people aren't adult enough to handle that information. Like
Mhm.
that's just a slap in the face to the community
And
doing
you
that.
look at it from like the Idaho point of view, and they were saying, we believe this is a target attack. We don't think the community is at risk. When they were saying that, it was because they had more information to be able to know that for themselves, that this was an isolated targeted attack, right? Like they knew that before they told the public, relax, it's not anything that we have to worry about here.
Yeah.
But Delphi on the opposite end just said, no, well, I think we're good. I think we're all adult enough to know. And that was
Riley, yeah,
irresponsible to me.
I think so. I
Mhm.
mean, Riley's the one that he was sitting there in that one press conference with that other guy, and he said, like, I think people are old enough to know what,
Yeah.
kind of like, what safety measures you should take,
Yeah.
whereas Tobe's thing was more of a, no, I don't think you have any need to worry, Anyways, if I could just double punch them both.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just to me is being so deceptive to the community. You're letting
Mhm.
your kids out. So, when you hear something like that, then you're like, okay, so they're on their way. You know what? And the parents are scared. Like the one lady said in the one interview, like, I did not let my kids leave the front yards for a month.
Yeah.
Right. And that's exactly, but
And
when,
we're adults to know, to figure out what we're supposed to. Okay, so are we supposed
yeah,
to let our children out to go for a walk, or are we supposed to let them sit in the house on their devices and be on chat rooms and be catfished and stuff? Like, no, spell it out for us, because two little
yeah,
girls were just murdered. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? Like, spell it out.
Right. Because I mean, like it would be a sad day that something ever happened to another child around there within the next couple of weeks that the
Mhm.
same person, because they had no clue.
Yeah,
That's what,
right.
like, so at the time that Tobe said that, I figured that they had a clue. The
Mhm.
way he said that to the people, I figured that they had a clue. And that's why, hence, he kind of made that, not thinking that, oh, well, we don't want the public to overreact here. So let's just give I'll hold it close to my vest
Yeah.
shit answer. You know,
I haven't always been a Tobe hater. Like honestly,
I've,
that's
I've
totally evolved over time. And the nail in the coffin for me was that what's her face, that documentary that Fig put out,
oh
and the
yeah,
way he was towards Carrie and stuff. It's like, who the heck does he think he is? Like,
right,
just
right.
unbelievable.
I couldn't stand him the minute I watched him do an interview with a YouTuber of some sort
Oh,
because she was
really?
using her phone. Yeah. And he was gum smacking his fucking gum as she's talking to him. And he's like,
Wow.
and I was just like, and I'm just like looking at him like, like, really, dude? Like, he came off to me like someone, like a narcissist. He came
Hmm.
off to me like so arrogant. And I'm like, dude, go back underneath the rock that you crawled from, because you literally are just fully, like, he just came across to me as full of himself. And I'm thinking, you got no reason to be so full of yourself. But that's the way he came off, just cocky, arrogant, and whatever. And then the minute he was like flapping his gums, I can't stand looking at his face, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've never liked that guy. I've tried, and I just do not like that guy whatsoever. I feel like
No.
every time I even look at him, I just feel like a big blob of poop should land on his head, um, on there. But
Oh, Sonny.
there you go, you two. Take that. Anyways, you guys, we're gonna head off. It's 3 hours and 45 minutes. Charmaine, is there any last thing that you needed to say before we head off? Or hey,
Nope.
no?
Not at all. Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us. And again, come back for the live tonight, you guys. Sweet dude, Chibi. Hike, thank you so much. You said you had got something for the kitty cats as well. Shoot, there was hold on. I hate it. I'm trying to think, but my thing, I'm trying to think about the donation that came in earlier.
Jeff did one, and I think somebody else
Jeff?
did one.
Yeah. And thank you, actually. One sec. Woo. Thank you, subscriber. Yeah, I'd feel bad because I just, when people do stuff. Gen C, that's it. Gen C. Thank you guys so much. And again, we'll see you tonight with Alexa on. We'll see how this one's feeling over here. And of course, Aspen Connor. Anyways, appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. And have a great one. And we'll see you in, I don't know, about 6 hours or so here. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Bye. This is Sunny Justice and Aspen Connor from It's a Crime and Shame, wishing you all a good night.